Okay, calling the meeting to order. Apologies for being late. So I don't need a report out.
No. Yeah, there's no report.
No report for closed session. And let's see, Pledge of Allegiance. Debbie, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have public comments on non-agenda items?
We do not.
Okay. And moving on to the approval of consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And just want to thank the community for the donations. We had lots of donations, which is wonderful, so thank you for that. And public comments on agenda items.
So that would come up with each agenda item. If anybody wishes to make a public comment, comment cards are back there and you can turn it into Laurel over here and you'll have an opportunity to comment on anything on the agenda.
Okay, so moving on to 10.1, student learning. Resolution 25-13, reaffirming Healdsburg Unified School District as a safe haven school district.
Yeah, so this comes at the request of Trustee Potmacel, who actually initiated it. We actually, before he even requested it, had sent out a notification to families with our very similar resolution from 2016, along with an article that I had written in the Healdsburg Tribune back then. Just stating that our schools are safe places for all kids and all kids are embraced and will be safe when they're there, really seeking to provide some reassurance to families that may be looking at how the political winds are blowing and nervous about their status as immigrants in the country. And so really wanted it, we had actually heard that there were some elementary students who were coming in with some stress and trauma and expressing that to their teacher. So we wanted to reassure families. And then Mike requested that we do something along these lines to be able to re-up our commitment to our families. And so we have this resolution in front of us. This is nearly exactly the same resolution as what we did in 2016. But I'm going to read the whole thing to you, and at the end we can have some time for comments. But I think it does capture where we are in our current political moment and how we feel about all of our students. And I'll also say before I even do this, I read this resolution at DLAC in Spanish last Thursday, and it was a sobering moment. Honestly, it was one of the hardest moments I've had in my career where you really saw fear and sorrow on the faces of some of those families. And so this is a very real thing. Whereas the Healdsburg Unified School District Board of Trustees is committed to success of all students, irrespective of their immigration status, ethnicity, race, religion, sexual orientation, ability, sex and gender identity, socioeconomic status, or beliefs. Whereas the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America recognizes every individual's right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Whereas the United States of America was built by diverse peoples, both native and immigrant alike. Whereas education has played a critical role in furthering tolerance and strengthening our society. Whereas the United States Supreme Court held in Plyer v. Doe in 1982 that no public school district has a basis to deny children access to education based on their immigration status, citing that children have little control over their immigration status, the harm it would inflict on the child and society itself, and equal protection rights of the 14th Amendment. Whereas recent political rhetoric and proposed changes to immigration enforcement policies have resulted in numerous students and families in Healdsburg expressing heightened fear, sadness, and concerns for student safety and well-being. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Healdsburg Unified School District Board of Trustees directs the superintendent to support the creation of a safe haven school district. The status shall include designating HUSD school sites, facilities, and equipment as safe havens for students, allocating adequate resources necessary to support diversity, inclusion, and the values of a multicultural society, hosting trainings on cultural proficiency and equity in the district, Resolved further that the Healdsburg Unified School District will work closely with the city, county, and other state and local municipalities and community organizations to ensure our schools are a protected space. Resolved further that the board reaffirms its focus on promoting and elevating tolerance, inclusiveness, and kindness of all students, families, and staff at all district school sites, facilities, and material property. Resolved further that the board reaffirm the authority of the superintendent to protect the data and identities of any student, families, or staff who may be adversely affected by any future policies or executive action that result in the collection of any personally identifiable information to the fullest extent possible provided by the law. And be it finally resolved further that the board shall not allow ICE agents on school sites, facilities, or material property without prior written approval from the superintendent. Resolved further that the board reaffirms HUSD's unequivocal commitment to ensuring safe educational environment for all students, serving as a safe haven school district for students who are potentially threatened by immigration enforcement to the fullest extent provided by the law. And that would be passed and adopted today if you all chose to do so. I do want to say one thing. We do not collect data on the immigration status of students or families. We're actually precluded by law from even asking. So we don't have any of that information, nor do we care. We take every student who comes to us. So any questions or comments?
I would move for passage of Resolution 2513, reaffirming Healdsburg Unified School District as a safe haven for schools, for students.
And I second it.
Yes. President Romo Flores.
Aye.
Vice President Lopez Jimenez.
Aye.
Trustee Popmasil.
Aye.
Trustee McAllister.
Aye.
Trustee Lopez Pardo.
Yes.
Student Trustee Johansson Hufrey. Thank you.
Okay, 10.1B, renaming of Frost Hall at Healdsburg High School.
All right, we have a presentation coming up. All right, so Frost Hall, so you know, was named after a former trustee, Chester Frost, who in the 1950s was sort of the driver of getting the main high school campus built. It has since, and I'm going to show you a picture, been completely redone. It's completely different than how it was originally used. And I think the time
Mr. Superintendent,
yes.
Could I ask that Mr. Esquivel come up and join you at the podium?
I was going to introduce him at some point.
Oh, then never mind.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah.
Hide back there, Andy.
I don't know if Andy wants to come up to the podium.
I think they both.
But
Oh,
at any rate,
sorry.
so I'm here today to suggest and hopefully have your approval to rename Frost Hall Drew Esquivel Hall. And I want to start by saying that it is not a normal thing for us to consider naming a school building after a student or a room. In fact, I've been in education 28 years this year, and I've never seen it done. But Drew Esquivel was not a normal kid. He was not a normal student. I'm going to talk to you about that, and neither is his legacy a normal legacy that lives on today in Healdsburg. I got to be his principal, I think, for 3 years. He graduated in 2013. And I can tell you, actually, I'm outed. There we go. There's Drew. I can tell you that a lot of great things about him. He had academic prowess. He excelled in every single class he took. He took numerous JC classes while he was at the high school. He was part of an epic team with Jordan, who's back here, Jordan Vega, his classmate. I remember you guys made the app that was at the bike store. So they made an app that went to the bike store, and people who would rent bikes had suggested bike rides, and it was mapped and told them where to turn and everything else in high school, right? So just an amazing accomplishment. And Drew went on to receive a full academic scholarship to attend MIT, right? Super smart kid. He was also involved in everything, from school leadership to every silly rebit dance. He was a standout wrestler. And was also very passionate about participating in drama. Drew had a natural curiosity about him. He actually I imagine he might have been the kid in the family who could talk his parents into anything, like the sisters would send him to try to get what they wanted, because he was the kid who'd always come talk to me about the rules at school, but it was always a productive conversation and engaging. He wasn't arguing. He just was trying to find the why, and then if there's a way to fix it, if he disagreed. He had a drive to win. I suspect he was competitive with his grades. He was definitely super competitive with his wrestling. He was resilient and determined. And he just had this natural joy about him. Whatever he was doing, he was having fun, and he loved being around other people, especially his classmates and teammates. All those things are not what stand out to me most about Drew. What really stands out the most was that Drew was one of those people who makes everyone better when he's around. He looks out for others, or he might just influence them with his joy and positivity. He had this effervescent quality about who he was in his leadership. And he could change the attitudes and outcomes for his classmates and teammates as a result. He made everyone better simply walking in the room. He just lifted the room when he was there. His legacy lives on today through the Live Like Drew Scholarship that his parents, and Andy and Suzanne are here. They started along with Healdsburg Sunrise Rotary, who was also here in force, in his name, to reward and support kids who embody certain aspects of who he was, right? So we have dozens of students now that are at places like Notre Dame, Vanderbilt, UCLA, Georgetown, UC Berkeley, pursuing their hopes and dreams because Drew's legacy is living on through them. This next week, thousands will gather downtown and run the turkey trot, which is like a Healdsburg institution now, but it's a fundraiser for this scholarship. And again, it enables our kids to continue living out the dreams Drew had. I also, while I knew Drew and I know his family well, I wanted to have someone who knew him better than I did speak. And so I asked Scott Wiedemeyer, who is our longtime veteran, super accomplished, amazing wrestling coach, to come up and talk about Drew a little bit.
Thank you. Wasn't going to, but I might start crying. Actually, Chris and I didn't corroborate on kind of what we talked about, but what I had to say really is kind of on the same level as what Chris had to say. When I started to try to write something up, I went back and started looking through photos of team members and, just old activities. And I watched some videos that we had done, filming practices and such as that.
I had a wrestling picture for you.
Oh, there you go. Beautiful. And when I started doing it, like, Drew was a good wrestler. He was a good athlete, but he wasn't a naturally talented wrestler when he first started. It took him a lot of work to do that. Chris talked about the competitiveness of that, and he worked really hard to do that. And ultimately, he ended up being a multiple-time league champion. He was a medal winner at the North Coast Section Championships, just missed. He wasn't far from qualifying to the state tournament, and he was just a very successful wrestler. With that, up in what is now Frost Hall, we have a wall of fame with all of the pictures of all of the incredible athletes we have. And so by him placing at the section meet and through his accomplishments, he is now memorialized up on the wall with what he's done. But I think really to go back and talk about what made Drew special was not his accomplishments as a wrestler, as good as they were, but he was a member of some really super good teams that we had with incredible wrestlers and very accomplished, talented athletes. And he wasn't on the same level as some of those, but where he excelled is exactly what Chris was talking about, making those kids reach for something higher and being a mentor to a lot of young kids, to a lot of the younger kids. And he really made a huge difference in a lot of the non-English speaking students, in being able to translate what we were trying to get them to do and to learn. We had a number of wrestlers that had some real physical challenges in succeeding at this sport. And he took them under his wing and helped every one of them. And it just, he was like the light. He was everybody's friend. Everybody loved him. he helped everybody out. And one of those things that kind of made Drew special, being involved in so many different things, was one of the things that as a coach drove me nuts, because he had a lot of potential. But in the off season, when we're doing off season workouts, he wasn't there near as much as we would like him to be, because he was either on some science camp, traveling somewhere, or he was volunteering his time, or he was, he went abroad for some school trip or something. But that's what ultimately made him really something special. And I think that what he gave back to the kids is immeasurable. And I think, when he got into college, it just continued the same way. He was probably not ready for college, but he worked really hard at it, and ultimately ended up being the team MVP and the team captain for the wrestling team at MIT. And really was special. So, I think that was all really evident when I started going back and looking through those pictures. But then you go back and think about the memorial service that we had at the plaza that day, and all the people that traveled here, and his teammates that were all back. And I think just how much that meant to him. I think the last thing I would like to say is that sense of giving and volunteering time and all of those activities obviously was fostered by Andy and Sue. And I think renaming Frost Hall is not only a testament to what Drew did and what he was as a person and his character, but I think it's a testament to Andy and Sue, and I think what they've given back since the time that Drew has passed. All of the scholarships, all of the Interact Club and the Rotary, the wrestling camps that we put on in Drew's honor. And I think it would be a great honor for them as well. So I actually proposed to Chris that we call it Esquivel Hall, not Drew Esquivel Hall, to encompass all of them. But anyway, that's my piece. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, yeah, I went a little out of order. There's how the room used to look when we had wrestling mats in, and you can see there wasn't a lot of room. We had basketball hoops, etc., the old stage, and it's been totally redesigned. It's absolutely beautiful and is going to be a great space for both performing arts and wrestling. And so I just want to close with saying that my hope is that by renaming this, Drew Esquivel Hall, and it might end up being known as Esquivel Hall. Who knows? Scott might get his wish in terms of just the moniker day to day. But in renaming it, that we not only ensure that Drew's legacy lives on, but that we hopefully encourage our students to embody the joy, the positivity, and more than anything, the kindness and compassion that Drew had for his classmates, and that kind of leadership, and that his parents embody truthfully as they continue to work in our community and our schools. So that is why I'm proposing this. Just a quick slide with next steps. If you choose to do this, we will schedule a dedication. We're looking at January 24th at 6. And we will also, if you've been in Smith Robinson Gym, a couple of years ago, we created a really nice sign that has a photo of Smith Robinson and then a narrative about who he was and why he's so special. And we'll do the same with Drew, and I'm hoping Andy and Suzanne can help me write that. And of course, we'll have signage and everything else, and then we let the wrestling and the drama start. It's already actually happening. They're having practice in there already. But so any questions or comments from the board?
Just that I'm so happy that we're doing this. We have Estrella Library at Fitch Mountain campus, and a former student. And now I think it's wonderful that we're going to have Frost Hall named after Drew Esquivel. He was my son's friend, helped him greatly. I remember he would go over there to get tutoring lessons, and just yeah, he was just always so helpful and just an amazing human being. And I remember meeting him the very first time in a karate class. And he was tiny, but his moves were like spot on and so sharp. And I was like, oh my gosh, who's this little guy? And he just is just an amazing person. And I can't think of a better person to name this building after. So I move to rename the Frost Hall at Healdsburg High School Drew Esquivel Hall.
Go ahead. No, please.
I'll second.
I think we're all in favor of this, clearly. I attended school with Drew. I was part of the Interact Club when he was president. And just, you know, I don't want to pull strength. I want to, like, tell more of a humorous story. But I remember going to the Interact Club meetings, and he would always pack his lunch inside of a bag of bread. Like his sandwich was always inside of the bag of loaf of bread. And I thought it was the oddest thing ever that he would just pack all of his lunch inside of this bag. But I think this is the right move for this specific location, given that he was always so involved in school and so involved in our community. And his leadership went beyond just school, and he was always everywhere. He was always volunteering. Back then, we would run I don't know if you guys remember, the tree sale that would happen here right next to the City Hall, and he was always there. So yeah, I think we're all on board here.
So we do need a vote. Yeah.
Aye.
Awesome. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Oh, I just want to add that I'm so thrilled about this naming. I think it's wonderful. And I didn't know Drew, but I served with Andy on the governance council years ago. And I know Andy and Suzanne from town. And I just have such deep admiration for the work that you do and the work of the scholarships and just how beautiful I think the legacy that you're carrying on and all the hope and opportunity that's coming from it is just really wonderful. So I'm so thrilled to vote yes for this.
I always like to add things, but clearly he represents not just his parents, not just his fellow students, but the community in which he lived. And his reputation is stalwart, and I greatly appreciate that. I would ask if you go back one slide where it, I think it's one, no, maybe the other way. Go the other way.
There's only
okay,
five.
right there.
There we go.
Creation of a sign. So I'm going to try and get techie because you know how good I am with that. Wouldn't it be great, and I'm looking over to the high school principal, to have some sort of his story on a video as people walked in? It doesn't have to play the whole time, but just something to think about.
Yeah, there is a monitor mountain.
And I know we have an AV production classroom. Maybe they would just have here. Yeah. Okay, just a thought.
Thank you. All right, really appreciate your approval, and we will move forward. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can always put his lunch there. Yeah.
Shall we take a few moments?
Yeah, let's take a look. Thank you.
I'm going to be making the video for the...
Thank you, Ms. Senator. Dr. Fender. Okay, so we're moving on to 10.1D. Oh, sorry, C, revisions to the Healdsburg High School courses.
It's this time of year where our teaching staff has really been digging in over the last couple months, along with site administrators and myself, to review what we are doing well and what might need some improvement and revision. So real quick, I'm going to turn this over to our faculty, our teachers who are here. We have 5 revised courses tonight for various reasons, and I'm going to let our teachers talk about why. So why don't we'll do this kind of a little bit in the order they're in the agenda here. So English 11, this is an existing course, so I'm going to invite Sharon Pollock and Audrey Beeler up first. This is a major revision to an existing course, and like I said, it is the dedication of these teachers that are here tonight, and I'm going to let them speak because really this is their hard work and their show. But I'm going to be here to assist if you need anything.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Today, we're excited to share with you some important revisions to our English 11 course. It's been quite some time since this course has undergone a revision. This revision is part of a broader initiative within the English department to diversify the voices and perspectives represented in our curriculum. By doing so, we're aligning ourselves with the district's larger equity initiatives, ensuring that our students are exposed to a wide range of experiences and viewpoints.
At Healdsburg High School, our English courses have always been dedicated to supporting students' comprehension, critical thinking, and communication skills. These are essential abilities that serve our students well beyond the classroom. With this revision, we're maintaining our commitment to these core skills while introducing an exciting new dimension, an ethnic studies lens. By incorporating an ethnic studies perspective, we're not only enriching our curriculum, but also supporting our students' learning across all their humanities courses.
Ultimately, our goal with this revision is to empower our students. We want to equip them with the tools they need to be empathetic, engaged members of their communities.
This revision represents an exciting step forward for our English department and for Healdsburg High School as a whole. We believe it will enhance students' educational experience and better prepare them for the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. Thank you for your time. And I think, are we supposed to take questions now or later?
Let's do it maybe all of them.
Okay, awesome.
All right, so like I said, this is the largest revision, really fundamentally changing the course that our 11th graders will take. This is the standard English course, so it will be either this or AP English. Those will be the only 2 choices. And again, Audrey Beeler and Sharon Pollock went through the 2.5 years of training for ethnic studies and have really remained champions for this work. And we've long discussed revising all of the English courses, but really this is a massive revise. So I wanted to thank them. Our other revisions, not quite as massive, but also worth giving some time to. So I'm gonna invite Monica Chavez, our theater teacher, up here. And she's got 1 revised class and then 2 new. So Monica wasn't yet on faculty when we dreamed up this course. And so she's been working hard with our students and Assistant Principal John Weller. And of course, she's got her ideas because she inherited this course, right? And so she's had some time now that she's gotten to know our community and our facilities and different things. So again, just a couple words, nothing major here, but it's a course that's currently on the books but was written without the actual teacher. So she's got a few things she's wanted to do.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Monica Chavez. I am new to Healdsburg as well as the Bay Area, and so I just wanted to introduce myself and say I'm so excited to work with all of you. The Theater 1 revision is mostly just unit revisions, making sure that we have an accurate pace for all of our students to grow with theater and the theater program. So it allows, Theater 1 will now allow students to be able to move up to Theater 2 or even go into a theater production class, for example. We're really focusing on basics, In Theater 1, we want to do improv, we want to do stage directions, movement blocking, just to get students comfortable to be on stage. This is not the moment where we're pushing them on stage because we think that they are ready at Theater 1. This is baby steps and growing into, and then at the very end, a cumulative performance for them for their class. So that is the revision, but it's very small. I want to say thank you to Mr. Weller because he totally did an amazing job with the curriculum, and I'm still keeping some of that stuff that we had already planned. I'm just expanding on it. Thank you.
Yeah, she'll be back up. And just to recognize some obviously great energy, trilingual, Spanish, ASL, and English, and really you're starting to see that in the work that she does with our students in many different ways, not just in theater, but also she teaches English along with Audrey and Sharon. So culinary is going to be next, 2 revisions, another new faculty member, right? We were all so nervous when Chef Corsino announced that he'd be moving across the country. And thankfully, we landed on our feet with Ben Witten. So Chef Witten is here. And again, a new faculty member brings new, fresh ideas and energy. And so he has rewritten 3 courses, also while getting, his feet under him and moving his family from out of state. So Introduction to Culinary and the Advanced Culinary and Hospitality course. These are revised because they've been on the books, but putting the Chef Witten spin on them. So I'm going to invite him up to the podium to say a few things.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here. Really kind of part of this is I also have a new course that I've written. It's just really trying to revamp kind of the way I'm approaching doing the culinary to kind of make it a very kind of progressive approach through culinary, currently starting with the introductory course and giving a couple of different pathways that students can follow. One of the new courses I'm going to be introducing is a baking and pastry course, and then really taking the advanced course and turning it into more of a truly advanced culinary and hospitality management course. So really kind of focusing not just on the technical skills, but how we look at the business, customer service approaches, hospitality industry as a whole, and really thinking through how we take all of these courses and make them very progressive, building on kind of just proficiencies really up into mastery. And one of the main ways I'm doing that is really kind of refocusing the course on being very project-based and student-led. So everything we're doing is going to be very focused on creating projects that are actually kind of community publicly showcased, and all of them are completely student-led. So they really kind of let the students help design what the projects are going to look like, what the coursework is going to look like, so they have kind of a driving interest in what they're actually doing. So that's going to be those first 2 courses, and then we'll fold the other one in a minute.
Yeah, the project-based learning, I mean, he is really leaning into that. It's something I care deeply about. So you're seeing not only the technical skill, but some pedagogy in terms of project-based learning. Join us December 6th, right, Friday, where the students' projects will be for sale in a holiday market. And so Friday, December 6th from 3 to 6 p.m., you can see some of the projects that our students have been doing, and if you need to get any holiday gifts. And last but not least is Academic Workshop, and I'm going to invite Assistant Principal John Weller up to speak about this. This is a new course that really he brought to us in supporting our MTSS work and providing some new fresh ways, and also one of the faculty members. So we've got 2 academic workshop sections right now. Bernadette Calhoun is teaching one of them, and then also Dennis Ojeda Jones. So we have both a mathematician and an English person supporting, and so I'm going to let them talk about the revisions to this course.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. I'm John Weller. This is Bernadette Calhoun. She works with half of our students, but really all of our students, because one of the benefits of our academic workshop class for our 9th and 10th graders is that both teachers work together and they do team teaching, which is, if you have studied anything about the power of team teaching, it's really amazing. So we want to be able to offer academic workshop from 9th through 12th grade. Right now, the course is written as 9th and 10th grade. And one of the benefits of that is to be able to kind of capture kids who have fallen through the cracks or are falling into the cracks. They haven't fallen through them. And the whole intent is to try to pull them out of those cracks. I keep saying that word. Pull them out of those and offer them skills. So we try to identify what the issue is. Maybe it's skill deficiency, just simple how to be a student. Or maybe it's social emotional. Or maybe it's that they don't feel like they belong at the school. They don't have a connection. They don't have a community. And we spent a lot of time at the end of last school year talking about what this program would be and what it entails. And a lot of what we talked about was how to deal with the heart of the kid. Not as much the head, the heart. How to help them feel like they have a place on campus. They have adults who care about them. And they have someone watching out for them. So I want to just commend Bernadette and our other teacher, Dennis Ojeda-Jones, for their work with our kids. And I will say that there's been some amazing progress made with some of our students that are in the program, and there's some students who have left the program because they've been so successful, which is great. That's exactly what we want. We've seen improvements in attendance for many of the kids. We've seen some improvement in their sense of belonging. And you had an anecdote you wanted to share about a student, a math student.
Yes, so I work with all the kids. We do work together in a room so we can address whatever their current academic need might be. I have a young woman who had difficulty getting to school last year. She had attendance issues, fell behind, obviously, academically, particularly math. She was very unsure of herself. And she's gotten to the point where, today watching her work, she's like, I got this. I think I've got this. And to see her go from being somebody who didn't want to be at school because she had fallen so far behind and didn't want to be there, to challenging herself and feeling confident has been an amazing thing to watch, honestly. So, and that's just one of the kids. So it's been pretty incredible.
Yeah, I can't speak enough about how amazing the work has been by these two educators. And so the simple revision is we're expanding the program through 12th grade. Thank you.
So quickly, I invite all of the faculty that just presented back up. We'll do a little Q&A. So just come by, don't go too fast. Really, my job as the director of curriculum and instruction is to find these little lights, right? And to help amplify that. And we're a small district, and we work together. And I just want to, publicly thank. So the way this will go is, like most new and revised courses, that we would bring this back on consent at the pleasure of the board for the next meeting. But if you all have any questions or wanted to say anything, and again, thank you to the shining lights and who make things really, really great for our kids. So.
I'll start. Thank you. I am so excited. Debbie might not want to hear this, but I would fund new classes and realize textbooks and materials all the time. I think that this is great, and I appreciate every single course that was introduced today. I have a question about the academic workshop, and my question is more around staffing capacity and whether if it's one staff member or two, if that's sufficient support, or do we have paraprofessionals, or are there other adults in the classroom that are supporting the students? So just because I know that there's multiple subjects that are being addressed. So yeah.
Can I clarify your question for just a sec, Crystal? Mm-hmm. You're asking what the current staffing capacity is, and then what we might wish for, or might...
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, just to clarify.
Current staffing is two of us, Dennis and myself. I would take every human being you could give me, probably. What this amounts to doing is becoming an advocate for each child, and almost a kind of an at-school mentor / parent. So we teach them how to set goals. We go through their planners with them. We've dumped out backpacks and reorganized things. So, the more the merrier is what I would say. I think what we found to be most effective is when we're working hand in hand with the teachers of the classes they're actually in. That does take time, and it takes time for our teachers to communicate with us. So Mike Ephraim, who's here, might say this person needs to work on this, there is a lot of extra time for a lot of people. I think maybe we do have Kim come in to do some SEL work. That's been very helpful. And maybe a special ed person might be helpful as well at some point. So yeah, anybody you need me. 20.
So we're trying to keep it around 10, 15
Okay.
per teacher.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry, can I ask one more question? So is it 20 and one class period with two instructors?
So
Okay.
they're all in sixth period. Their rooms are on opposite sides of the campus.
Okay.
They do come together almost every day.
Okay.
And Bernadette is she's a math teacher, but also does engineering. So she's your STEM kind of approach. And then Dennis Perez is more the humanity. He actually is credentialed in social.
Dennis Ojeda.
Ojeda Jones is credentialed in English. So, yeah.
So you have 10 students in each classroom, and then you kind of switch based on support for STEM versus humanities, kind of?
To be honest with you, we end up joining forces.
Okay.
9 out of 10 days, so that we have the flexibility to be able to work with. So, today somebody finished their math and then they needed to work on some vocabulary. Dennis was right there. Also, it helps we really have created a family atmosphere in there. The kids they care about each other. They're really supportive of each other. So it's really helped kind of create a community to have them together.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And actually that sort of answers my next question, which is that do you feel like that's a optimal class size?
Oh, yeah.
Do you feel like there's kind of, I guess, like order and a sense of cohesion with a class that size?
I think what it allows us to do is really be involved in every facet of their lives. So if they're having a discipline problem, we can work with, that area of their lives. If they're having issues with social emotional issues, we can work with Kim. We know them well. And so we can work on various different parts of their student life and home life and, emotional life. And I think if the class got too much bigger, that'd be hard for me to manage.
Okay.
It's like having 15 kids, right?
Right.
Where's everybody?
Yeah, and I don't want to cut you off, but I think one of the things that we learned in doing math support for so many years is that this kind of family all-in wraparound service kind of concept was something that we were missing, and that it just being focused on a particular subject area was okay, but it wasn't it wasn't everything we needed.
I mean, this makes so much sense to me the way you're describing it, and it sounds so deeply supportive, in a long-term kind of way, and sounds amazing. And I will say, and this is like the least of it, but it's so consistent with the goals that the board has talked about at length about what we want to see happen in the district and how we want our students to, how much in our wildest dreams, how we want our students to feel going to Healdsburg Unified, which is supported as individuals and human beings, respected and part of a community. So it's great to hear.
And I'll say we have academic workshops going at the middle school as well, new this year.
Yeah, that's so great.
Thank
you.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions? And again, this is for just revise. We'll do new here in a minute.
I do have a question. So it's a stagnant group, so they're there for the whole...
No, we can move them out at basically every grading period. So we're moving them in and out roughly every 6 weeks. John can talk about it a little bit more. Really, it's at the semester is where we take a real good hard look. Part of that's just having continuity with moving kids between classes, and they're likely going to go into a CTE or an elective course, so we don't want to cause too much of an issue. But as John said, every kid we look at them individually. So it's when that student is ready, but intentional looking at semester. Yeah. So every student will be looked at both for ins and outs at semester at the high school. And then at the junior high, they do it every quarter.
Thank you.
The movement of electives isn't quite as challenging in a middle school that it is a high school, right? We're trying to balance not making elective teachers upset by moving kids around too, just to be honest. Yeah.
I just want to thank you all for being here tonight and braving the weather. I know it's going to be a long drive home, so really appreciate you being present and talking about the classes that you're doing. And that reading list that you guys did for English is incredible. So thank you, Audrey and Sharon, especially. Yeah.
Can I make one last comment? Because I'll regret it if I don't. I want to thank all of you because I know that you're not only teaching, but you're also revising and creating and working with Erin and chit-chatting with each other. I really appreciate the respect that students are given through these revisions and through the creation of these courses, and the way you presented the information to us today, looking at our students and our specifically high school students as young adults, because I think that's something there's frustrations from even students that are not, sometimes do not feel like they are seen as young adults. So I really appreciate this approach, and I am so excited for all of these classes and can't wait to hear from students. And I also really appreciate the reading list that was created. So thank you all.
All right. Some of them can go home. Others have to stay for second period, which is our next agenda item.
10.1D, proposal for new courses at the Healdsburg High School.
Yeah, so new courses. So I'm going to invite the fabulous Miss Bernadette Calhoun back up here, the woman of many talents. What doesn't she do, I think? It's kind of how I think about her sometimes. So we restarted engineering after a hiatus due to, we didn't have qualified staff, and now we do. Those of you who've been through this classroom are seeing kids are creating, making bots, doing all kinds of cool stuff. They're coding, they're doing math, just sneaking math in on them all over the place. And so we want to make sure that students who are in Engineering 1 can continue their studies, that this becomes a pathway. Engineering 2 is a new course to begin next year, is on our docket.
Hello again. Well, first of all, thank you for approving Engineering 1. It was really as a result of some students coming to me who are really passionate about engineering. Particularly, you saw some of the kids in the paper last year who were part of Skills USA, and they said, why can't we have a class where we do this kind of thing? And thus, we have Engineering 1. I am proposing Engineering 2 because I still have a lot of students who aren't seniors, sophomores and juniors primarily, who would like to take another step in their engineering journey. So Engineering 1 is a very broad look at engineering and different types of engineering. Engineering 2 would be more focused, primarily robotics, electrical engineering, using and doing some programming on what are called Raspberry Pis or Arduinos, if you know what those are. So they'd be doing more programming, creating devices, looking at alternative energy. But the big ticket item would be the capstone project. So I have a lot of kids who are doing Skills USA projects. We have 4 or 5 teams competing this year. I'd like to offer a place for students who want to do those long-term projects that really require an incredible amount of work on their part, finding mentors, meeting with mentors, documenting their process, proposals, budgets, that I believe should be contained within an environment where they could be rewarded for that, but also where they can get guidance more officially. So that is why I'm proposing Engineering 2.
Great. The next new course I'd like to introduce is Pastry and Baking, or Baking Pastry, however you want to say it. You may remember many years ago, we were trying on the academy model. We had the Global Table Academy, and we also had AM/FM. Those weren't able really to get enough interest with all the FFA stuff and AP and whatnot. It just wasn't a sustainable model. 2 legacy courses from Global Table Academy are Cuisines of the Americas and Global Cuisines that we've offered every other year for the last 7 or 8 years. With Ben Witten coming in and kind of looking at what we've got going on and where we're headed, it seems to make sense to sunset those 2 courses and to bring pastry and baking. And so we'd still offer 5 culinary courses, right? Ben will have a full docket. Likely a couple of beginning classes, an advanced or 2, and a pastry and baking. And then we would sunset the 2 courses that were written by Chef Corsino for kind of a different model and a different time. So I just want to be transparent that those two courses will go off of the offerings. Small school, we can't do it all. We only got one chef, but offering pastry and baking as a new course, which I think is going to bring, I told them, are you going to bring some samples for us? So I'll let Ben talk a little bit about this. And he mentioned briefly, when in thinking about the pathways, so there will be still two pathways, right? A student could take beginning culinary and advanced, beginning culinary and pastry, and a student, if they have time in their schedule, could take all three.
So as Aaron said, part of the idea was to sunset the 2 cuisine classes, and part of it is just because of the way I am going to be teaching the intro class and the advanced class. Those are really going to get folded into what we're doing now. I'm really kind of very passionate about really kind of folding a lot of different kind of academics into the culinary classes. So lots of math. I'm just kind of a science nerd, so I like kind of talking about all the science. And we really incorporate the history. So if we want to talk about where pesto came from, we start talking about like Catherine de Medici marrying into the French royal family and all sorts of things like that, to talk about kind of like where the foods move throughout the worlds and things like that. So that really kind of has become part of the other courses. So in sunsetting, we're really just kind of folding them into intro and advanced and now into baking and pastry. And a lot of this is from the idea that when I really talk to my students every year, you really see kind of a chunk of students who are very, very specifically interested in baking and pastry. And what ends up happening in our intro classes and our advanced classes is we do that stuff, but then a lot of it starts kind of veering into what the predominant kind of piece of kind of the culinary world, which is just kind of culinary technique. But there is kind of a whole nother sect, and there's a lot of very specific techniques that go into that. So we're going to kind of talk about all the kind of crazy sciences behind like proteins denaturing and like coagulation and freezing and things like that goes into very specific baking techniques, and then the business models that go along with that, which are very different types of business models than in some traditional hospitality. So the idea would be really to kind of give students the ability to kind of really explore that if they're interested, explore a more traditional hospitality model if they're interested, or if they're really kind of interested in a kind of more holistic and they have that time in their schedule to be able to do all three. Thank you.
I'm so excited about this class. So excited. I'm an avid bread baker, and I'm a pretty good home baker, and just looking down the line looks amazing. Yeah.
Okay, and then I'm going to invite Monica Chavez back up here too to talk about theater production in Theater 2. So just to set this up, right, we have Theater 1 happening right now. We want a pathway for students, both for our actors, right, she mentioned earlier, but also for our students who are interested more in the production. They don't necessarily want to be up there on stage, doing their lines, but they want to make sure that the production happens. And so in a small school, even in larger schools, the way this works is that theater production runs concurrently as part of the Theater 1 and or Theater 2. So it's not a separate section housed on its own, like theater production happening third period. It is happening while the other theater classes are happening, so they're working as a team. I'm going to let you talk a little bit more. I'm sure you can explain it better than I can. Okay.
Hello again. Okay, so Theater 2 really is trying to branch and grow upon all of the skills that they learned in Theater 1. Instead of learning the basics, they're going to be, my hope is that they'll be running the class. So students will partake in 3 main things, which will be directing, writing, and producing their own shows. So now that they have all the basics, they know how to act, they know how to do this, it's really expanding on the other assets of theater: directing, writing a show, producing a show, and we'll be able to use my Theater 2 students to direct my Theater 1 students. So it'll be really great to see students directing students, students learning from other students, and not just myself as well. So those are the main components of Theater 2. It's an opportunity for them to really expand on the skills that they learned on Theater 1. Looking at trying to do a production this year, I'm seeing a lot of holes in theater production. I have all my actors, they're phenomenal, but I do not have anyone else except me who runs lights, does marketing, does the set building, sound, projections, and I can go on. So I'm very much a one-woman show running the theater program, and I think it would be a really, really great addition to the theater department to add theater production. I have a lot of students who are very interested in aspects of theater, but they do not want to be on stage and in that spotlight, but they do want to run lights. They want to run audio. They want to market and do marketing and create posters and stage manage. And all of these skills that they'll learn in theater production can be applied to multiple areas, not just in theater, but in any kind of job that they do. Organization skills, event coordinating and planning, and so forth. And I think this is a really big hole that we can fill in with more students who are trying to get into a space but don't want to be center stage. Thank you. Oh yeah, of course.
Ben and Bernadette, come on back up. So that's the 4 new classes. Any questions? And we would bring this back on the consent agenda in December for your approval.
I do have a question. So I know that for pastry and baking, we mentioned that we would be essentially dropping 2 of the courses that already exist and then interweaving those with the courses that will continue. Will any of these new courses affect the availability of courses that are already available? Not necessarily in the same subject, but other courses available at Healdsburg High School.
So course selections really drive sectioning for the most part. Sometimes we're limited by facilities, right? We could probably offer 7, 8, 9 sections of culinary if we had the facilities for it. So probably for culinary, this will play out in that there'll be likely 2 beginning, 2 advanced, and a pastry and baking is my guess. We have way more students that sign up for courses than for the culinary courses than we have the facilities to accommodate. In all other places, they're generally student-driven, right? So depending on how many students sign up for engineering, every now and then we get in a pinch because we need a math teacher, right? So the core has to take precedent and making sure we're staffing appropriately in the core subjects, and then how many students sign up for each courses is, anyone's guess every year. So does that get at what you're asking?
Yeah, I don't think it answers the question, but
Okay.
I see where it's going.
Okay.
I think we don't have an answer is what I'm hearing. Like, it's driven by students
Student
and what they
signups.
enroll.
Yep.
And if students enroll in pastry and baking, I'll just give that example. Pastry and baking next year, they might not enroll in another elective.
Yeah.
Auto.
Right,
auto, exactly.
Right, or construction, yep,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
largely, the considerations are facilities, teachers, and student choice.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But I think maybe I would add to Crystal's question, is anything else being sunsetted?
Possibly.
Okay, but that's a different conversation.
That is a different
Yes,
conversation.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that all of the teachers tonight used metaphors that were appropriate to your subject. That really
Yeah.
stood out. And I
Folding,
love
then.
it. More of that.
Pun intended. Yeah.
Yeah, sunsetting courses often have to do with faculty changes, right? When people retire or, there's a bunch of different things.
Right. I think we were just wondering about resources from our side. Are we sure that we understand that adding one thing isn't taking away from something else?
Right. And it can, right?
It does.
Just to be
that's the
completely
there's an economics to scheduling, and it's market economics in a lot of ways, right? And it's not purely market driven, but it is. There are other considerations, as Aaron said, but largely we look at where kids want to be. And
I appreciate really the creativity and the evolution of the available electives, both at the junior high and the high school. I think it's really respectful to students, and I love it.
Yeah, and thank you all again for being and Ben, you had like really big shoes to fill, and you filled them. Like, kudos to you. Really excited to have you, Monica. You're killing it. And I'm so sorry the theater wasn't ready on time, but you're doing an amazing job. And I hear amazing things about seminar too. So yeah. And Bernadette, as always. Yeah. Super appreciate you.
I did just want to add one more comment, which is that I'm super excited about the theater production class. I think for me that it's been one of the main factors in sort of hoping for and advocating for a drama program was, just to be really frank, we have a lot of great sports at Healdsburg High School, and we have so many great classes and resources. And, I don't even want to list because there's, I'm sure, things that I won't think of while I'm sitting up here, but just like the opportunities are amazing. But I always have felt that there was like that performing arts was missing, and that for so many students, including the students that might be interested in costumes and stage management and all the problem solving and get up and go and the show must go on that happens in theater is something that can just be hugely important in people's lives going forward, that their memories of high school drama, my memories of high school drama, and millions of others, it's like, it is this formative thing where you think like, I'm a person who likes events. I'm a person who can get things done, and all these things can come from working in theater, and the technical solutions and all the things that come with it, getting out there and waving your signs, telling everyone to come. And it's exciting. So it's great to see how proactive you are and kind of looking forward to broadening the program. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I have a few things to say. Chef Witten has done a really great job. I'm not trying to get extra credit right now. But straight to, exactly what Mr. Van Hool was saying, I've done a great job filling in Chef's shoes. I've had both teachers now, so you've been doing a great job. I do have one question, or actually have two. In your other classes, you already have a high emphasis on baking. Is that going to be kind of reduced with this, baking course?
Yeah, it will be, and to some extent. Part of it is just coming in, this being the first year, and really kind of changing the way the program is running in a way, to really kind of jump into doing that project-based, student-led kind of focus of what we're doing. We kind of started focusing on cottage foods, which are just a particular type of food that does not require, that can be shelf-stable, has certain regulations around it that basically make it so it's a more easily marketable thing, but also gives like the students an ability to jump into kind of the idea of running a business without having to think through quite the extent of it. So it's really basically a way of getting everyone to kind of jump into that. It was mostly kind of a simple way. The idea being that now that we have a whole set of intro students who have done that, we can really roll them into kind of a whole different level of it, kind of going to the years forward. And the intro class will probably kind of shift a little bit more to being a little less focused on that to start with.
That's cool.
Is that like jar salsa and like soup mixes?
Things like that. I mean, Julian can tell you he's currently making his own instant ramen in class.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a range of things. I've got students making marshmallows, jams, cookies, various like mixes. It can basically be anything that can be held shelf stable with a couple caveats to that.
Cool.
The marshmallows have our team beat, but
marshmallows.
And then my other question was for Monica. How large is your program right now?
Well, currently I have 11 students, 11 amazing, talented, dedicated students, and they're phenomenal. So obviously I know that I am competing with all of our amazing programs, but I would rather look at it as us sharing these amazing, talented students. I'm very much a kind of person that loves compromise and wants to make sure that my students can do drama and also be on the soccer team or do this and that. So I think this will allow for more opportunities for them to join into drama. So I'm hoping to build and expand as much as possible. So tell your friends. Okay.
Okay, I will.
And I'll say, as you well know, as a student, right, so much of what students sign up for, not only is the class, but a personality and teachers. And folks were signing up for this not knowing who the teachers are going to be, knowing that the facility was not going to be ready to. So I think now that they know Ms. Chavez and they know we have this beautiful facility, I think this program is really going to take off. Yeah.
How does the A through G eligibility function with your next course that you were talking about, doing more like the production side?
Yeah, it still deals with deals with F, which is visual and performing arts.
Right.
So theater, I believe theater 2, the way I've written it is students can retake that class, and theater production can be another class that they can retake. So I believe they only need 1 year of VAPA credit, so they can take any of these courses and fulfill their VAPA credit. It'll stay as VAPA.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just so you all know what happens once you guys approve, hopefully in December, then they go to work getting them approved by the UC. So we always make sure the board approves first, and then the portal for UC approval opens up in February. So that's the next hurdle for these guys and us. Yeah.
And great questions, our student trustee.
Yeah, Julian, on your toes. Good.
Nice.
Thank you guys. You guys are dismissed. Get home, drive safe, please. Go slow.
Yeah, thank you all.
We need you.
Okay, so we are now at 10.1E.
Right.
Update with arts.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to go quickly. This was requested by Trustee Pontmasil a month or two ago, an update on Prop 28. We also have a wonderful arts education planning committee. We have many members, a few members, I should say, here. Linus Lancaster is here, Ben Ehrman.
Tiffany.
John Weller,
Yeah.
Tiffany, yes. And
She's waving, sorry. Yeah.
So I'm going to go through just some nuts and bolts stuff here. What is Prop 28? And then I'm going to invite the committee that's been working with me since about this time last year. So in November of 2022, the California voters passed Proposition 28, known as the Arts and Music in the Schools, or the AMS Act, providing ongoing annual funding for arts education. Within those frequently asked questions, right, what is the arts? And you can see through this definition, I'm not going to read it to you, I'm going to stop talking in just a minute. It's a lot. Right? There's computer coding, there's music composition, script writing, there's all these things, and then also many of the other, what we would think of the traditional arts. So diving into it, right, examples of the arts, the standards, right, just like there's standards for English language arts and mathematics, there are standards for the arts. They're broken into these 5 disciplines. And again, just wide breadth here. A little bit about the funding. Prop 28 requirements, there's something we're calling an 80-20 rule. So 80% of the dollars have to be spent on staff. So 80% of the money has to be on staff. It can be teachers, classified aides, teaching artists, so only 20% of the money can be used on materials. We must supplement, not supplant, and what that means is all of a sudden we can't start paying for Mr. Lancaster sections because he's been an art teacher with us, right? So we can't say, well, we're going to use this new grant money to do things that we've already done. And I'll be honest, it's been a hard thing for us in Healdsburg. Unlike many other districts that slashed their arts programs, 15, even 20 years, and then maybe have slowly built it back, we have a fairly robust arts program, PK through 12, through enrichment in the elective courses. So we'll get into this, but it's a good problem to have, right? That we've got extra funding, but making sure that we're using it very strategically and that we're not supplanting programs that we already have. So how's the funding, how's the allocations work? It's based on student enrollment and percent of low-income students. So you get a base amount for the number of students you serve, and then you get additional money for the percent of those students who are low income. It's all part of the May revision of the governor's budget. We have 3 years to spend the current allocations, so we're currently in year 2 of 3, and so I'll get to a chart here that kind of shows you where we're at. And just reiterating that while it can be spent to support teaching artists, classified staff and whatnot, if we employ those folks, we still need to have a credentialed teacher in the room. So I can't have a teaching artist working alone with the students. I can't have a classified person working alone. So a certificated teacher still needs to be present and a part of what's going on. So current offerings, like I said, we have a fairly robust arts program, not saying that there's not room for improvement. There certainly is, and that's really something that's been the committee we've focused on. But through our enrichment program, Ballet Folklorico, visual art, music, we have Luther Burbank visiting artists come to the classrooms. We do an amazing poetry jam that is also very much arts infused, right? So and these folks will talk a little bit about arts infused versus, kind of arts as standalone. Our project-based learning is very arts enhanced. When you see the projects, when you go to the winter performance, you'll see it. And then over at FMC, some other fun things, right? Cartooning, the STEAM, enrichment, Reader's Theater. So lots of great choices, but also room for improvement, right? Room for more. At junior high, you can see the electives there. We started a cartooning class. It's been a big hit at Fitch, and so to continue on, at the junior high, theater started last year, fine arts. Ben Ehrman is here tonight from the junior high, I almost called you a math teacher because I saw Mike, our art teacher, and I'll invite him to the podium. And then at the high school, quite a robust offering for a school of 500. But, there are some things that, we may add or change. So here's the funding landscape. I want to draw your attention to that total allocation kind of there in the middle. So right now what we're talking about over the last 2 years is $391,000 is what we've been promised by the state. We're spending this slowly because we're in the middle of writing our plan, right? We want to make sure that we do this smart and long-term. And so you can see some of the funds have been expended there, particularly at the junior high and the high school for the new cartooning theater, a new kiln for ceramics, the mural that's going up at MPA and supporting visiting artists that are supporting with that. Kind of an interesting thing because we have a state-funded preschool, so we'll be working with North Bay Children's Center to allocate those funds. So we have through next year to spend this $400,000. So we're going slow to do it well because we want to write this plan and have it not just throw money because we've got money. And we can answer some questions towards the end. So I'm going to go ahead and invite up Mr. Weller, Mr. Lancaster, Mr. Ehrman, and Ms. Doherty. This team's been amazing. We've been meeting at least once a month for a couple of hours, sometimes half a day. Linus wrote us a grant last year through Creative Sonoma that's provided a facilitator for us for last year, and then kind of looked at each other and said, we could probably do this on our own. We got some good leadership. I'm a member of this team. I am not an expert in arts, right? Just like a CNI director for PK through 12, I know a little bit about a lot. And so I am a member. I am not the leader of this group. Really, the leadership has been led by Assistant Principal Weller and Dana Adams, who is our library media teacher who came from Lake County and actually was the Lake County lead for the arts programs at the county office before joining us. So she's got quite a bit of background as an artist herself, as is John. So I am not the lead of this, and I'm going to let them kind of take over. It's really been fun to be a member of this group and diving in and doing this good work. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Hi there again. I grew up in a family where my dad is a professional artist. We didn't have much money, but we had some really good vibes. My mom also is an author. I'm a musician. It was just very artistic family. I'm also a drama geek. So to speak to this, I'm really invested in the arts in high school. It was a place where I found I belonged. So that's why I'm a part of this. I just want to talk through the process. It's pretty simple. We assembled this team almost the Avengers, almost the same. And we really, our first thing was to figure out what the district had. As you saw in a previous slide, what we already did, because we had to figure out what we could add and where we wanted to go. We wanted to find the gaps, and we wanted to also develop goals and strategies. And with that, we also wanted to think about philosophical approaches. Do we want to just add teachers and classes, or do we want to think about comprehensive arts integration across all subjects and all classes and all classrooms? So we spent a lot of time talking about that as well. Our goals really are rooted in rigor, relevance, and relationships, and looking at student engagement, academic achievement, college and career readiness. You can read the list. So I want to highlight that. Core aspects of the plan that we've been working on is aligning our work with the most important values that we hold as a district and each site and each principal and each teacher and each student and each family. So looking at alignment, looking at development of sequential, responsive arts curricula, looking at professional development for both our classroom educators that are non-arts oriented folks to also people who are arts educators, and then also equitable access to arts programs and partnerships with local arts organizations, community, and families. I'm going to stop at that bullet point, and Linus wants to share a couple of things about that partnership and what that might look like.
Thank you. So I just wanted to bring to your attention, in case you're not aware of it, that coincidentally with our efforts, there has been a long-term project to get the City Council to approve the formation of an arts commission and to hire an arts manager for the city, and that comes out of the Arts and Culture Master Plan, which we have been writing over a period of quite a number of years. It was adopted by City Council in 2021, and we have finally reached the point where it's beginning to be implemented, and the commission is forming. The arts manager has been hired. And one of the things that the Arts and Culture Master Plan does is that it mandates that the city begins to invest more in education and more in partnerships with other creative nonprofits in Healdsburg, of which there are 9, and most especially HUSD. And so I find that really exciting. It's a win for our community and for our students as well, that the city now has a goal of increasing their investment in education and increasing their collaboration and partnerships with organizations such as ourselves and our students. And so this is coming at a very, very good time. So I'm really excited to see it all coming together. It's great news for us.
Thank you, Linus. Continuing on, let's just talk about expanding the facilities, assessment of data collection. So the data collection is a really important piece that a lot of people, I don't think when I was in high school, I don't think my band teacher was sitting there sending data to the school principal or the district and saying, look, these kids, they're learning how to play their instruments. I don't know what was going on. But what we would like to do is look at not just the data of art growth, art education growth, student growth in art, but across the board performance gains. Because we know that that research shows that students that are involved in arts education make performance gains across the board. Attendance improves, school engagement improves, and performance on our statewide normative assessments improve. So that's what we're hoping to really kind of drive the plan toward. Real quick, next steps, we hope to complete the draft by March. Oops, I just went backwards. We want to complete the draft by March. We want to get feedback from the community on that draft, hear what they have to say, make adjustments based on that, and hopefully get that before you by June for approval. Thank you.
So a couple of other things. A robust team. There's a couple elementary teachers that aren't here tonight. Tiffany bringing the elementary perspective as the principal. Ben bringing the junior high perspective. We've surveyed all of the students grades 3 through 12 last year in a survey, kind of what arts do you like? What are you good at? What can we do more of? And we also surveyed all the staff about, Do you want more training to infuse arts into what you already do? Do you want a teaching artist to come and partner with you from the outside? So we're gathering information. We've had a few parents kind of coming in and out of the committee. It's tough because of when we meet is right after school. We've got a darn good draft that this group has put together. We're kind of fine-tuning it and getting it ready. Then the next big lift is community feedback. And so likely what that will look like is working with our ELAC groups, our governance councils are existing, but also probably hosting some type of community forum in the early spring in order to share more and have, kind of more table talk type. So if you're not on one of our existing committees like governance council, ELAC or whatnot, you'd have a chance to engage with our plan and help us. So any questions for all of us or, input in terms of direction from the board?
I have a question. So, I really appreciate the comment about that research does show when students participate in the arts, they tend to do better academically in all other areas as well. One of the comments that sticks with me at one of our community forums is that our Latino students do not feel like they are included or they don't feel welcome at some of these extracurricular things. And so I'm really wondering how there's going to be a strategic action plan to make sure that we are doing outreach to those students specifically, because they're our most underserved students and our lowest performing students, unfortunately. And so I'd like to make sure that there's something in the plan that has some strategies for making sure there's recruitment of our Latino students.
I'll speak real quickly to that. Absolutely, we are including that in the plan. We are talking about specific approaches to reaching out to the, we're trying to keep it general to leave it open, but also specific to specific communities within our school that need to be served, and looking particularly at populations that are marginalized. Another thing that my goal is that our hires for these roles represent our student body. And that's my personal goal. I want to make sure that when we're hiring folks in these new positions, because they have to be new positions or new roles, that those folks represent those folks and our students that need a place to be, and they need someone that represents their life and their experience. So I don't know if we're going to include, how we can include that in the plan, but that's where I come from.
Yeah, and I know that that's a challenge, right? So I really would like to see some action steps to document like what the outreach is going to look like.
Appreciate that.
I have a question. Are all of the offerings, will all of the offerings be offered during school hours, or are some of them after hours?
The Prop 28 funds have to be used during the school day, but we could leverage other funds like Expanded Learning Opportunity Program, ELOP funds. So that's another thing. We've had lots of conversations at the elementary level about, and this happens whenever you get new funding sources in education, right? Where can we shift what we're currently using in different places so we can more leverage the requirements of this funding or make it bigger, better, but Prop 28 funds have to be used during the school day, but other funds don't. So we might be able to do some shifting, and then, there's always some questions about supplanting versus supplementing that we need to make sure that we're not stepping on toes. But Prop 28 has to happen during the school day. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that answers my question. I wasn't sure if there were during school business hours. Just a suggestion for anything that happens after, to always think about the after-school program that happens at all of our sites, and how can we leverage the student population, many of them being, most of them being from working class parents who work, long hours, and this could offer an opportunity for those students.
Yeah, I think we've got something cooking there to leverage ELOP in order to make the after-school much more vibrant situation that it is.
And I just want to give a shout out to Erica knows what I'm about to say, to the after school enrichments that have been happening at FMC, because they are one of the rare and wonderful opportunities that we've had in the years that I've been involved in the district for students who are in after-school programs and students who normally go home at the end of the school day to participate in the same wonderful enrichment activities and have a great time together and keep learning. And I just think it's something that, again, I'm a broken record today, but really aligns with board goals. And also, you know, I know from my own son's participation is just absolutely awesome and is the first chance that he's had to do an after-school activity with all of his classmates versus doing something that's separate. And I just think it's amazing and really fun. And also kind of maybe makes the school day a little more reasonable for everyone involved.
Yeah, and I will add to that and say that at FMC, HCS, I believe as well, yes, actually, I have been there, I've witnessed it. They've been able to leverage the after-school program students who participate so that they are also not missing out on the activities that are occurring, that are run by our school staff. So really appreciate it.
And I'll be honest, part of why we haven't spent much of the elementary money is because we're trying to massage that so we can both expand during school day and after school, but it's taking it takes a lot of thoughtful time and working honestly with the union and talking about use of time and prep time and all these things. So we're getting really close to where we think we've got a reasonable solution that's going to be a win-win on all the sides.
That's exciting. And I'm really happy to see that there's such a broad base of discussion that's looking all the way across kind of TK through 12, because I would love to see, you know, I really feel like the intention of this Prop 28 money was to really, you know, it shows everyone's commitment to the arts as being an important part of everyone's growth and education, and having, honestly, like a civil culture as well, and a rich, vibrant culture. So, you know, I just think it's super important that there's that deep thinking and continuity goes into the plan.
Hi, I just wanted to add that we have spent a lot of time talking about what our values are in terms of the arts and how we want to really invest this money very wisely for our students. And I'm pretty excited about the ways that we're looking at having students be able to really express themselves and to express their culture. That's a big part of what's in our plan currently. And also to be able to use the arts as a vehicle for their social emotional health. And so those are all pieces that we're really excited to bring to you when we bring the full plan. And I think they're just going to make, for me, I was an arts person as well. I wasn't super into sports, but I was very into drama and singing. Not that kind of drama. No, good drama. And so it's also really, it's just important to me that kids feel like they have a place to be themselves. And so that's what we're looking to bring with the ability to spend this great money.
I have two quick questions, hopefully quick. The money, when it runs out, $391,987, when that's gone, what happens?
So let's go back to that slide here. So this is an annual allotment based, so you can see in 2023-24, right, the money was a little different in each of the schools, but within a couple $1,000s of each other, because it's a per pupil allotment that's annual. So the wonderful thing is that we can count on about what you're seeing there annually.
Every year?
Every year.
Oh,
right.
Excellent.
Right. It's dependent on the governor's budget, right? So
that.
we can see some fluctuations, but you know, you can see just in 2 years' time, right? It's fluctuated, you know, depending on the student population and up and down just a bit. But what you see there likely will be roughly $200,000, a little under $200,000 annually to HUSD.
Right. My other question is regarding community, obviously community input, and not just, I want to say not just our community, but the greater community. I know Linus knows this, and connecting our kids to the community, to the Healdsburg Center for the Arts, to the new True West Film Center, and much more. One of my hopes, and I think Linus knows this, is that our city, Healdsburg, becomes much more tuned into the, what do they call it, the creative economy. And that's just so our kids can better appreciate the art that's around them and be part of the creators of that art. That would be,
yeah,
you know,
and we're
true to my
seeing
heart.
that. Yeah, Ben just took his Arts 2, your Fine Arts 2 and our observational drawing, basically year 2 classes on a field trip to Napa and, Linus, man, this is baked into who he is. So, but to your point of making it a PK through 12 initiative. So we're getting there, but we have more work to do.
And community. I mean, if our kids' art was out into the community and if our kids are out in the community viewing art, I think it'd be terrific.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, Mike. One of the things that I think is so important about that and has so much potential is that as we get people acclimated to the idea that art is infrastructure, we provide opportunities for our students to engage in civic processes that they might ordinarily feel intimidated or bored or simply that they would not feel invited into. But as we begin to infuse the arts to a greater extent into the infrastructure and into the scaffolding of our civic processes, then it opens up spaces for students to join those on a civic level. And so it becomes an invitation into something that they aren't ordinarily introduced to as something that's open to them or that they would be interested in. But the arts have the power to create those connections.
If the plaza had a little or big display of student art that rotated, et cetera, I think that would be great. And, student drama, yes. Oh, up here? Yeah.
Be in this room.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Hello,
in
yeah,
this
yeah.
room.
And
Sorry, it was just
yeah. I was wondering, what am I missing?
The gray walls that are here.
Just, again,
And
get us out there, get people aware of the school. It's always...
To your point, Trustee Roma Flores, one thing that has, continues to strike me is that you could drive by any number of our schools and not know that over 60% of our students are Latino and Latin American heritage in the building. And, that's something that we're very conscious of. And I think through initiatives like this, we could make some change. We have some beautiful murals on the inside, but you don't see the cultural vibrancy just driving by our schools. And that's something, again, this team we've talked a lot about that needs immediate improvement. Yeah. All right, we've got a long night ahead of us.
I just want to recognize Linus and his students for their installation they did at the high school. Really appreciate it. And I'm actually getting other districts requesting the installation, so we'll have to talk. Yeah. But speaking of civic engagement, that was, very poignant. Thank you.
Sorry, I have one quick question.
It's important.
Does the residual money of the $400,000 that does not get spent, does that roll over to the next year?
Yeah, exactly. So we have the current funds that we have right now, we can spend this year and all of next year. So we're not too stressed about, we won't not spend it, I promise you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Taught you, Julian.
Yeah, Julian, you're getting an A on this meeting.
I know,
Yeah.
Totally. Right? I'm going to talk to your government teacher. Okay. Thank you for being here, you guys.
So moving on to 10.1F, Healdsburg High School WASC accreditation visitation.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Dave Tannhausen, the principal at Healdsburg High School. I've also invited Ben Gunter here today, who has done the lion's share of the creation of the WASC report. And so I'm going to let us lead us through the first little part of that. So, Ben.
Hi. Long time. This is my 21st year teaching English, and no one told me when I was getting my credential that not only would I be asking students to write, but I would have to write big reports too. So, unbeknownst to me, but I know that this is the accreditation process. This is a full 6-year visit. In fact, I believe last time I had this conversation, Trustee Roma Flores, you were in that room. And what the WASC report is, it's a function of education in the state of California and other Western states and countries. We have to write a report to the visiting committee, and that's a consortium of people. There's principals on them. There are people that work in the educational offices, a wide variety. There's teachers. But the report is us, the best to our ability, telling us what our school does and what our strengths and weaknesses are and where areas that we see in need for growth. Now, it's kind of a fun process, and the staff at Healdsburg High School is so good and dynamic. It is not difficult to lay out the foundations of the report, and we have people, add details in areas where it is their expertise, so we can give the most accurate picture that we can of Healdsburg High School. So we're at the stage now where we will be submitting the report to the state in January, but of course we need to hear from you, and we want to share with you, what we've learned.
I really do want to emphasize the work that the staff put into this over the last year to create this report. I wish they were all here tonight to be able to say thank you to, but it was really special to be able to walk into this with such a complete product and then be able to partner with Mike, with Ben, Mike Ephraim, others who have led us through this. So I'm going to go ahead and move into it and get started. Thank you, Ben. Much appreciated. Of course.
And then the reason you're like, why isn't the principal writing a report? That it's the state asked that it's the writing a report teacher directs it, because obviously I'm not like we have different interests, but that's the reason the process is, and then the administration sees the bigger picture. Should I sit down?
You're more than welcome to sit or stand. Or it is not me, my friend, but maybe if I just think really hard, it'll happen. See, moved. Okay. Great. So I wanted to start with just some context around this, and maybe this is more for my own knowledge than for others. As I walked through the WASC report, it became really clear that it's part of a larger process that happens in the state of California, really starting with the LCAP at the district level. The LCAP is a large part of our WASC report. The SIPSA also relates to that. From the LCAP, we use that to inform our WASC report, which then lasts for hopefully 6 years, which is the amount we've been accredited for over the past time that Ben did this, and I believe the time before that. And then from the WASC, we go to our SIPSA, which happens every year. And I'm going to do a presentation on the SIPSA tonight also. You're going to see there's a lot of overlap between what I'm going to talk about in the WASC and the SIPSA, but we'll review some of the data from last year as part of that. Feel free to stop me at any point as I go through this if you have questions, or we can wait till the end. Okay, so just some quick data highlights from 23-24. You'll see this slide again when we walk through the SIPSA, but we had great improvements in the CASP. Please excuse the missing P on our improvements in math and ELA. In Rigor, we established the academic workshop course, which you heard about, which has been very successful. Under relevance, we currently offer, we were an AP bronze level school, 18 AP courses, 6 CTE pathways with the establishment of engineering. That also includes a local pathway in computer science that Mike Ephraim, who's here tonight, has taught for many years. Multiple visual art pathways or multiple visual art classes. Community, students, staff, and families, so significantly decreased our suspension rate from 9% to 3%. Thank you to Mr. Weller and others who contributed to that last year. And chronic absenteeism dropped from 40 to 30% from 40%. Still unacceptable, and where we're at with chronic absenteeism and something that we're really going to focus on going forward and have so far this year. All right. So goal summary. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide except to say where you see the asterisks are the growth areas that we are focusing on in WASC. What is not asterisk is what we have focused on and will continue to focus on in our SIPSA, and I will address that in the second part of this presentation today. So there are 5 key areas in WASC identified through sections A through E that are growth areas. We also have a number of strength areas. We're not going to worry about those tonight. We're just going to worry about what we're going to work on to get better at. So our WASC priorities start with our mission, vision, and purpose, which I call our MVP, and then also our SLOs. We currently have those established at the high school. They do not exist everywhere, and in all honesty are not used to drive learning. And that is something that came from our teacher group. They are from the district, what we have listed, and we are really working on rewriting those currently in teacher groups. You can see PLCs, professional learning communities, alongside collaborative learning up here. We're using both of those growth areas to drive our MVP conversation. We're also talking about high-quality Tier 1 instruction, multi-tiered system of supports, and then PLCs. I know our other sites have been highly involved in that over the past 2 years. The high school is really diving in this year with a key team in CAPS to really push a lot of these ideas. So this is a graphic that I thought was useful for myself. Our MVP, our mission, vision, and purpose is at the center of everything we're going to do over our accreditation period. Surrounding that and informing what we're going to do there is MTSS, tiers 1, 2, and 3. I could talk for hours about MTSS if we want to. I don't know, it's already 8, so maybe not. We're going to talk about tier 1 instruction, which is the core of how we work with our students. Obviously, tier 1 is part of MTSS, right? We can talk about tier 2, tier 3 also. And then PLCs is the vehicle to examine and change practice alongside that idea of collaborative learning. So some of the things we're currently working on in our WASC report with our mission, vision, and purpose and SLOs. So the staff identified a clear mission as a desired outcome from the WASC process. Having a clear MVP allows staff to organize around a guiding principle and relate how we work with students to why we work with students. We started this process at the high school in October, which was a little earlier than I expected, but it came out both of the WASC report and the work we were doing at CAPS. We garnered staff contributions, worked as teacher teams and PLCs to contribute core ideas for the school. We designed 4 different working statements, which were reviewed together. We came back to statements and solicited additional input, and what I'm calling kind of Mission 3.0 was produced from what was originally on the wall to what we came up with to what then we've kind of decided on, and we're still going through some edits there that we'll bring back before the board. Next steps, we're going to break that mission down into its constituent parts, write out the vision, and use the vision to create SLOs that align to student and teacher-driven contributions. Next, one of our growth areas is high-quality Tier 1 instruction, Tier 1 being that base of the MTSS pyramid. So thinking about Tier 1 addressing 80% of students in your school. Some of the things that we're currently doing for Tier 1 instruction in a common assessment format would be STAR reading and math. We use that to inform academic workshop, placement in classes. We've also begun to use IXL as a process, so you can actually join STAR reading and math scores to IXL through a back-end table merge, it's not a mail merge, but you like upload a CSV and it joins with IXL in order to produce work at grade level for a student, not at grade level, at their level for a student. So students can now get work in math and reading at their level, get core content Tier 1, at their grade level, and it really, I have found with whatever common assessment you're using, addressing student deficit through work like this actually really helps improve your Tier 1. Going forward, and really important to this work and things that have started happening in our other sites and we're really starting to lean into, essential standards in every subject area. Math has been highly involved in this conversation already this year. Using essential standards to design interim assessments that measure student mastery. Little bit different than STAR reading and math, which are general assessments, which measure grade level proficiency, interim assessments measuring subject level and grade level proficiency to a certain extent. The idea of using results to adjust instruction is something we'll start to talk about, right? What is the data cycle? How are we using the data cycle to drive student learning? And we've started this process in math, as I mentioned, and in ELA. They just had an amazing scoring session for their interim assessments that they're then using. I was talking to Ben today about some of the scores that came out of that. So really excited about where this process is leading us and how much we can grow our students over the coming years. Collaborative learning goes right along with PLCs, but I'm going to talk a little bit about this because we're going to have to do a lot of scheduling changes if we're to find time for subject areas to work across during the school day. We're currently utilizing our faculty and department time to do this collaborative learning. And it's something that the staff, again, mentioned in WASC is a need, right? Like we want common practices. How do we do this work together? Hard to come up with really good common practices without the MVP, which is why we started with that. We're going to couch collaborative learning within the MTSS practice or framework. We need to talk about how we define tiers 1, 2, and 3. Within MTSS, if you know about it, we're going to split into SEL and academics, and our first goal directly informs this practice of collaborative learning because with an MVP, we're able to directly connect common practices to the why of the work. An example of a practice that we've begun to implement is using our early warning system, which is just a tremendous achievement of this district that I was so excited to see when I came into it, to implement student chats where we all talk together about students that we have in our classes. that can lead to teacher intervention, and then cost referrals, which are something we use across the district. And then again, like I said, dedicated time in faculty and department to discuss these practices. PLCs, I think, we've talked about these.
Tate, did you want us to interrupt you if we have a question,
Absolutely.
or you want us to wait
Please.
till later? I guess could you expand a little bit on the thing you were saying about kind of teacher time and during this process, and what's happening now, and then what are the needs going forward, ideally?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is opportunity within schedules to create prep periods where teachers can overlap and they can decide to use that time to work together, whether it's in a subject area or a cross-curricular environment. That would be teacher decision to do that. Our schedule doesn't necessarily line up in really predictable or intentional ways to do that right now. So there's opportunity to look into that, is what I was referencing.
Okay.
Right now, we use our department time after school, CPT time, and faculty time, which is dedicated time for that we that is what it's there for.
Right.
There's just additional opportunities to provide teachers with time if they so chose to use it, where they can work in cross-curricular and department level groups.
And that would be something that would happen starting next year?
It could possibly happen next year, depending on what we look at its schedule. I know Aaron spoke a little bit earlier to sort of the constraints that happen on a high school schedule.
Right.
I will say, as someone who's built schedules at multiple levels, high school is the most difficult because of the number of classes that we offer.
I can imagine that it's really quite something.
It's not even just the number of classes, it's the number of preps that different teachers have, and being able to line that all up becomes really difficult, which is oftentimes why you have these early dismissal days, so that you can have that dedicated time, because it is so, especially in a small school like ours, so difficult to line that time up appropriately.
I'm just interested in the idea of sort of making sure that teachers have adequate time to move forward with these initiatives that doesn't take away from the prep time that they need ordinarily for life, sort of minusing whatever they, and so it sounds like you are too, and that's the commitment, but I guess I was just kind of wondering what does that look like now? What might that look like ideally next year? And does the board have any role in that or not?
I think the board has a role in whatever it wants to have a role in, right? So
wow.
Yeah, go ahead and write that down. Awesome. I will say there'd never be an expectation outside of the after-school CPT department and faculty time that any teachers use what is provided as unencumbered prep for anything beyond what they want to use it for.
Right.
However.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Can I chime in on that?
Yeah.
It's two just important things. For example, I teach 9th grade English. Oh no, I have to be recorded. I teach 9th grade English with Dennis Ojeda Jones. And we're next door neighbors, and so that's nice that we share, because that's harder at a small school. We share the same discipline. So even though we don't have the same prep period, there's a lot of conversations in passing, or hey, what's up, dude? You going to lunch? And we bounce ideas off of each other, when we're doing some very similar practices in our 9th grade classes, similar content, and we both come up with different ways to address issues that arise, and we have different ideas to do that. And that is a form of an intervention, because we are working together to, work with what are our strengths and weaknesses. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a huge encumberment of time.
Right, I understand.
It does what Mr. Danhausen's saying. It has to do with the schedule.
Right. Okay.
That's a big part of it too.
Okay. Thank you.
But in that situation, if we were able to provide time in the schedule where those two 9th grade teachers shared a prep and they so chose to use that, that would be a great advantage, I think, to the way it was built. Yeah. Okay. So PLCs quickly. We're in year 1 of CAPS. We've begun the work of using PLCs to create our MVP and common practices. We're going to continue to use PLCs as the driving force behind Tier 1 instruction, MTSS, essential standards, data analysis protocols, so on and so forth, as our staff continues to come up with ideas. And then MTSS, multi-tiered system supports. This is a huge project, right, that I think many districts across our state are engaged in. HHS has been working alongside the district for the past 2 years on MTSS practices. We have some new Tier 1 interventions, such as the early warning system, IXL plus STAR, the wellness center that's available to everyone. The wellness is really Tier 1. Tier 2, available to everyone. Tier 2 in the number of students that use it. We have some new Tier 2 interventions, which we think are being really successful. Academic workshop, cost referral system, counselor support through. Yeah, go ahead, Mike. I cannot. That Coordination of Services Team. I'm sorry, I'm still learning all the acronyms.
Coordination of Services Team.
WASC.
It's like a
Western
pre-SST.
Association of Schools and Colleges. There we go. There's one. Okay. So yeah, so Coordination of Services Team. We just had a meeting this morning. It's a really successful program, and we're continuing to work at it to make it even better for our students. And then we have a new DF system that we're working on with our counselors to early identify students who are at risk of credit deficiency, starting as early as sophomore year. So that is it for the WASC presentation. Any questions from the team? Yeah.
Starting at sophomore year, why not freshman year?
So we do look at freshmen, actually. It's a little harder to determine like an absolute credit deficiency at freshman year. However, we do have freshmen on this list. When I use the word credit deficient, we will have that conversation with freshmen. I struggle to want to put that tag on anyone that early beyond a conversation about what it means. We're doing so much training with freshmen at how do you be a student? How do you access your classes? What does it mean to have 7 teachers? What classes do you need to take to be successful? That we really focus on that support versus hey, you failed 5 classes so far. And that means summer school, that means any number of things, and you got to get serious about this. But we are having those conversations. I had 3 of them yesterday, actually, with some freshmen. So yeah, great question. Other questions about the WASC report? No? The WASC team comes out February 26th.
I think it's the 24th to the 26th.
24th through the 26th, yeah, absolutely.
It's a Sunday to Wednesday visit.
Yeah, we had our first meeting with Chuck, Mr. Chuck. What's Chuck's last name? Do you remember? I want to say Chuck Milner, but that might not be right. He was great. He came out. Ben, myself, Aaron, we all met with him. He's been doing this for 30 years. Just did San Francisco Unified last year. Told us a big old story about it. So we're excited to have him up here. He seems really on it and loves doing this work. So, yep. Yeah, absolutely, Ben.
They will come with. They'll make their recommendation, and their report actually goes then to the WASC board, and then the WASC board examines our report, their recommendation, and then votes on accreditation. So it's usually a month or two later.
Yeah, at least. It may not be until May or June before we know for sure.
That said, I've not heard of a school whose visiting team recommendation came out differently once the board looked at it. So typically we have an idea of where it's going. Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to say. That being said, too, as tedious as the work is for the staff, because it's a lot, it is invaluable in that you get people that are from the outside that have completely different interests, and so it is a good way to get a good comprehensive report. And okay, cool, we like your ideas here, we like this, but what about this? So it's good for us to grow as an institution. And I just can't speak highly enough about the staff of the high school's ability to weather through it and make a strong report. And it's wonderful to have Dr. Danhausen over here helping drive us now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Mr.
and Ben,
Gunter.
thank you for your leadership,
Yeah,
and pass
thank you.
on to the staff. With principal turnover in the middle of the WASC report, not an easy task at all. So I echo what you said, and we're certainly appreciative of all the work you have done and the staff as well. So
My pleasure. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I
Ben.
think.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One question. Does the use of the IXL education based on the tested level, does that allow students that are already on the back end of that chart to fall further behind and not reach the same level? You wouldn't be taught 10th grade math, you'd be taught 8th grade math. Are you stuck at that level?
Absolutely not. No, as you use IXL, the grade level will go up based upon the classes that you take and the questions you get right or wrong. You would still, and all of our students, receive grade level instruction in their math classrooms. IXL is an additional resource to help close gaps for students that are missing key components of their math education.
And when do they use IXL?
When? During their math classrooms.
During math.
Yeah, during math class. Yeah, during tutoring, during math class, they can access it at home. It's directly on their Chromebooks that they take home. So they all have a learning plan. I think 405 students have learning plans in math directly. We also use it in Spanish and are working on bringing it out in ELA. Yeah, maybe it was 403. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Sounds great.
I just wanted to note, not important, but under natural disasters, the county did declare the floods from 2023 as a disaster. So that, I don't know if that's Yeah, there's a 2023, the 2023.
You're talking about in the WASC report in the beginning, like
yeah,
the first
very
pages?
beginning. So in case you wanted to add it, it's not, you know.
All the natural disasters go in.
Maybe we're having one tonight.
Yeah,
right,
seriously.
Right. We'll be stuck together today.
I think should I just remain at the podium?
Yeah, you can go
for
on
SIPSA?
to the next SIPSA.
Okay.
Please. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you all.
Safe drive.
Thank you, Ben. Okay.
You know, we're not doing, we can take a break or not, but I just wanted to say the principals, like, you guys don't have to, like, if it's okay with the board, I think the principals could go home. Yeah.
I think they want to see this report.
Okay. If you're here for moral support for Dr.
All right.
Danhausen. Yeah.
Okay. So SIPSA, School Plan for Student Achievement. All right. Got that one right, I hope. Again, how it all fits together, just again, the slide that we've already seen. This idea of data highlights from last year. I believe the California dashboard goes live tomorrow for those of you that want to view this data more in depth. I know I do. So, goal summary. So in our SIPSA, we talked about these 5 WASC areas. We are continuing to focus on the things that the SIPSA listed last year, and I want to make that really clear. These don't disappear. So ideas of math support, multilingual learner support, RFEP, making sure that our students can pass out, which they do such a good job of at the lower levels. This idea of college and career support, school climate, student engagement, family engagement, staff and community engagement are still at the top of our list when it comes to how we're going to implement our WASC areas and how we're going to continue to engage our community. The SIPSA we've actually written as under the LCAP, right? So we have our LCAP goals, first one being rigor. You can see some of the improvement data that we're looking at along with summary of actions. These, again, just reflect what we've talked about before. We've really leaned in math. I've been working with Ms. Fender, Mr. Ephraim, who is our department chair, alongside the rest of the math teachers to think about how we can address math deficits for our students. Anyone that's in education, you know, we are out of the pandemic, like we are beyond it at this point, but it is still directly affecting student performance in schools. And the number one area that I see that is in mathematics. You have students who missed entire years, and math is progressive, it builds. It's not, you know, English is to a certain extent comprehension. If you can read and you can improve your reading level, you're going to be able to do English. Math, if you miss a year, that's an entire algorithm that you might have missed. It's an entire subset of mathematics that you might have missed, and we're all dealing with that now at the high school level, especially with some of our younger students, for sure, in that freshman, sophomore, and even junior class. And so know how important it is to continue to focus there. And you can see some of the things that we've done to address that math support. Multilingual learner support at our school, well, our L numbers are low, sitting around 8%. There is a very high newcomer number at our school. I think we have 17 newcomers currently. We've expanded our services to L students. We've hired a bilingual paraprofessional that works throughout their classrooms. Dr. Perez, who is our ELD teacher, is piloting interim assessments that are put out by the state in his ELD courses for newcomers this year. We're actually working on that pretty closely together. He also has a new curriculum for those courses that we're looking at. We still know we're not doing enough. I saw the RFEP scores from last year. And actually looked at them over the span of 24 months, and you have improvements of 10 points, 15 points. You have some students sliding backwards. And we know that we need to do more for our students. And I want to be clear, that's not just students who are still our ELL students. 60% of our student population are RFEP'd at some point in our building, and those are our students who oftentimes struggle the most, especially students who come to us who have RFEP'd in 7th and 8th grade and now are struggling, who we monitor as we should and turn all that information in. Monitoring is just monitoring. It doesn't actually affect student performance. And so we know as we continue to look at student performance, that is an area where we must focus. So questions about that slide? Yeah.
But just happy to hear that because, yeah, they definitely need additional support. Not that they're struggling, but that you're really looking at what more you can offer.
I just want to say that I looked over at Araceli when you said that because I just, it's so gratifying to hear you approaching the issue that way. And we really, really appreciate it.
And that's the staff, really. I mean, they're the ones that are bringing that. So, Goal 2, relevance. Again, improvement data on the side. You can see what we're looking to perform or what we're looking to have happen. College and career courses, I kind of went over those numbers. The fact that we offer Spanish 1 through 4 alongside AP. Really excited about a possible partnership with the JC for next year to possibly bring in ASL. We're still working on that and what that can look like. We've tried it in the past. Hasn't quite worked. Hopefully next year we can get that off the ground. This idea of like 2 counselors, scholarship coordinator. We recently hired an early college credit coordinator directly from the junior college who works as a counselor at the junior college and 15 hours with us. Julian, do you take college courses? JC courses? One dual enrollment? Okay, well, she'll be reaching out to you and talking to you about it. So she's able to coordinate with all of our dual enrollment students, all of our students who are not just in a dual enrollment high school course, but at the JC, and work really closely with Marcy Becerra on all of their internship work and college work. So thank you I think that was you, Aaron, that put that together. So thank you for getting her in the door. Goal 3, unless we have questions. So again, decrease in suspension rate. Thank you to John Weller for the work he did last year. The number that keeps coming up for me is when we look at youth truth data, we only have 42% of students in our building currently saying that they have a trusted relationship with an adult. And that's not abnormal, to be honest. So like that's not to be clear, a bad number in Sonoma County. It is a bad number for me. 80% of students that go to any school that I'm the principal of should say, I have someone in the building that I can look to, that I trust, that can help me, and that I know will help me because I trust them, right? Like it's this big circle that comes back together. And we're working on it. Like we're not there. We're probably not going to be there next year, but we're going to continue to use that number. We're going to continue to talk about it every day. Any teacher who's in here can tell you they're tired of hearing that number from me because I bring it up all the time. Again, you can see vision, purpose, and slows. I think that's where it starts. So this idea of the MVP, once we have that locked in, that's where we can really start talking about the why of how we address getting students to trust adults or say, and you know, I mean, that's part of it. Like I think students do trust adults in our building, to be clear. Like we have good relationships. Somehow that's not translating to whatever the data is saying. And so it's a matter of figuring out how we get students to express that and know those words about, you know, I do trust someone. How can we teach them that? So, all right, that is the SIPSA.
Really great presentation.
Yeah.
I heard everything I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tate.
Same.
All right.
Agreed.
Thank you.
It was a great
Say, you're
presentation.
going in
Thank
the right
you.
direction and with the right attitude. I appreciate that.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, trustees.
Okay, next we have Marcy Becerra Academy.
Hi, folks. I'm just trying to see if I can see the slide. So I lost my glasses that I could actually read both. No, I'm not the same. I was told to speak fast, but I told them I would say a bunch of folksy stories. Is that okay, everybody? We share some uplifting. No, all right. I took on the leadership of Marcy Becerra Academy about halfway through last year. And while I have a huge heart for kids that have struggled in school and need additional supports, and I spent a lot of time in former districts working in MTSS and providing interventions and realizing that our system often is the reason why kids fail, not necessarily because of the kids. I didn't know much about what I was getting into, and I happened to go to some big picture trainings and stuff, so I can wrap my head around the system that they're in. I'm totally behind it. I think it's an amazing program. And I also want to acknowledge that Marcy Becerra has not been supported very well from an administrative point of view for a long time. Not from the district. It has to do with the site leadership at the high school and how we've worked with Marcy Becerra Academy. So I'm just going to acknowledge that right up front. And then also say that stepping into that role, because it has not had adequate support, there's a lot, excuse me, I'm not getting choked up. There's a lot of things that have just kind of happened, and then trying to reel back in some of those practices and figure out how to corral things in a way that's productive and brings along the teachers that are already in the program, brings them alongside some goal setting and some making steps. I do not feel like the goals that I'm setting in this SIPSA are huge goals. I think they're goals we can reach, and I think they're baby steps towards something that we can become an even more amazing program. So I want to acknowledge that and put that out there in front and say that I think we've got a long way to go even from here. Okay, so
I appreciate that.
Yeah. The first slide, I do have control. Yes, and I can barely read it. Okay, and I have it in front of me. So the first slide really talks about our summary of our goals and what I want to focus on. Is everyone at this table familiar with big picture learning? Do I need to fill in the gaps for that? Okay. Okay, so really, Marcia Becerra is focused on credit recovery. We get students in there that end up in a place where they cannot recover credits through independent study. They cannot recover credits through summer school. They're so credit deficient that they will not graduate from the high school. Whatever systems we currently have in place. Hopefully we have new systems in place that we can kind of provide a middle ground. We're working on that in the back end. But in the meantime, that's what it's for. So you have kids that have been broken by the system. They're moved to a different school that has kind of a negative perception on campus of what it is. So a lot of kids go in there, and then we walk in the classroom and you see a lot of kids that seem disengaged in Marcia Becerra. But what happens is that they get off campus, they go out in the world, and they engage in internships, and it does change the way they see themselves, primarily, and then it opens them up to opportunities to learn. So they're willing to say, okay, I didn't want to learn anymore, now I want to learn. So I want to also put that out there to say it doesn't look like in the classroom engagement is the priority, but the students are out and about. And last week I got to go with one of the teachers to an internship. And it was a student who had like 10% attendance. And we were just clawing at the family and at the student and talking to them, sending services. The county got involved. The student was not coming to school. And then through the valiant efforts of our Marcia Becerra teachers, they got them engaged in an internship at Santa Rosa Plaza, and the student's attendance is now at 65%. That attendance looks like them at their internship a lot and coming occasionally to the campus. But they are interacting with the teachers, spending time with them, maybe not all on campus, right? So it's just, I also want to say that's really cool. It's very different than what we would see as a school. So with that, this is all about engagement to me. It says number 2 is relevance, engagement's in there, but engagement is across the board here. If we're going to increase graduation rate, we need to increase engagement. Engagement in both the school site and the internships. That's what I want to most focus on. And then at the bottom of the second column ball, at the bottom of that is the mental health and social and emotional counseling, and I'll get to that in a little bit, some initiatives we put in place that are really cool. So, we have worked on our graduation rate. Our biggest encumbrance to our graduation rate is attendance and participation. And participation more than attendance, because we see that participation in an internship, which may not look like attendance, gets them to attend, right? So that first step is how we get them in the school. And we have students with such huge social emotional issues that they can't leave their house. And our folks in Marcia Becerra are going to the house and trying to interact with them. They're sending services. They're trying to make it work out so that the student has success in their home environment and then can come to school. And then inquiry-based projects, you know about how that works, but this is all about engagement. If we can get students to school, if we get students out and provide enough social emotional support, then we should be able to bridge the gap and get them to graduate. There we go. The second one I'm not going to talk about all this stuff, but we had a very atrocious suspension rate for all 30 kids, which means we had a couple kids suspended a couple times. In 2023, was it? Yeah, okay. So that caused us to get a grant from the state, which is kind of nice. And with that grant, but it's specifically focused on interrupting that suspension rate, right? Getting in the way of that. And we hired a bilingual student, I have to say it, that's the long name, Student and Family Services Coordinator, Karina Chavez. She's an incredible, amazing, I just can't say enough about her. And she's coordinated efforts with our wellness resources on campus and other resources, including Native American initiatives. She's brought in mentors from all sorts of places, including the JC, to come in and provide social emotional support for students, help them learn how to build an image of themselves that includes the fact that they do like to learn, like at the base, and they are okay, and that they have a place to belong. So she's done an incredible job, and we're going to move forward with that, and we're putting things in place to keep her. This loan was for only a year, but we're figuring out ways to fund her position moving forward. Right, Chris?
It is a grant, not a loan.
Yeah, it is a grant.
Key
but,
difference.
But there's other sources of funding for her position that we're identifying and actively working toward. Sorry, Chris. I didn't mean to
No, it's all good.
on the spot. It was more of a joke. Goal 3 is really looking at getting people plugged into, goal 3. I can put it on the slide. There we go. Getting people plugged into the big picture learning model. And we're doing pretty good at getting kids at internships. We're doing really good at getting kids to engage in these projects. We need to get better at turning that, and this is what I've seen, turning that into real world learning, not just real world experiences. We know that we learn through experience, but we learn more when somebody says, what does that experience mean? And what are you gaining from it? And then what do you want to use it for? So thinking about long-term growth and looking at, if I'm in an internship at this one girl that I visited last week, doing design work on custom cups. It's hard to describe what she's doing, but it's very cool. But then also helping her see this is also a business model. What is the per unit cost? What is the cost of the design? And then what's the profit margin? And then how does scale work with that? And how are you going to get customers in? So there's a lot you can go into to develop learning so that we're applying those credits to appropriate learning experiences. So that's what this is about.
What did you say she was designing?
There's a store in the Santa Rosa Plaza called Bellissimo, and they make they're nylon cups that, like the big drink cups, and then they do these wraps that are shrink wrapped on there that are very cool. And she designs those, and each one is custom to the customer. That's one of the things that they sell there. Yeah. So, all right. That's the plan. We're also putting in place career panels. We're putting in speakers that are pushing in. They've gone on 14 Leave to Learn field trips this year, which is way more than last year at the end of the school year. So we've really expanded that. And we're hoping to develop deeper mentor pools, like folks that are participating in the program that are a much wider array of folks. So that's where we're at. Any questions?
It looks good, and I appreciate your reality check and saying we're here, but we want to be here, and we have steps to get there, and I appreciate that.
And really appreciate you stepping in the middle of the year last year and jumping in both, feet first. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And I would invite on December 10th is the mentor dinner. It's at 6 p.m. for the MBA mentors. So the MBA Mary Mentor Dinner, December 10th for the trustees that want to check
It'll
it
be
out.
included in your update on Friday. So
Yeah, please come, and it's catered by Culinary, and I think our Young Empowered Women's Club is going to be the front of the house, the hosts. Yeah. So, love to have you. Thank you.
I would just like to add, related but not related, and maybe this is for Laurel or someone. But I don't know, Laura, if you're the appropriate person, but to highlight some of the work that both the Healdsburg High School is doing in the classroom with the teachers and the students, but also with MBA. And I saw recently a social post of some Indigenous community members coming into the classroom at MBA. And I think like that is what big picture learning is, right? Like bringing in community and using the wealth of community. How do we highlight that so that community members who are tuning into what Healdsburg is doing, are like our neighbors or, you know, long-term residents here who maybe don't have children are understanding what our schools are doing. And I see that happening a lot in elementaries and would like to see like just highlighting and showcasing some of the incredible work that our teachers, our students, and our administrators are doing as well. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you all.
Okay, we're going to do reports next?
Yeah, reports are next.
Okay. All right, so how to report.
It's
a long meeting.
You got to hurry. You have to get those raises done.
We might hit some kind of record tonight.
So we do, the HADA members do appreciate the quick turnaround and ratifying or the tentative agreement that you are all going to see ahead of you in this next part of the meeting. And some of you will still be around for the next round of negotiations. And you see the sunshine letter that we provided, and then you gave us yours. It's in the board packet. 2 of you won't be here, but to enjoy that. There was one bit of concern that we did see, that it stated that we would be losing 5 full-time teachers over the next 2 years. And it was stated in the board packet. And when the board here talks about cuts to student-facing instructional people, and I brought this up last year, that we continue to see cuts to teaching staff and classified staff, and yet there's no mention of administration at all having any cuts. We talked, Chris, you said that you were going to go back and discuss it with the board about perhaps there being some cuts not at the site level, but perhaps at the district office level, where, I mean, if we're going to save money somewhere, if we're truly a shrinking district that we have to cut 5 teachers over the next 2 years, then it seems like that there should be some level of cuts across the board, right? So that was a concern that our members saw in the board packet. That's like, 5. We didn't know there would be 5 teachers being cut over the next 2 years. All right, thank you.
Mike, I'm happy to talk to you more about that. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, CSCA. Do we have CSCA? No. Okay, student trustee report.
All right. Yeah, I'll make this short and sweet. So the Interact Club is hosting 2 families for the Make-A-Wish group. I think that's a great, program. We have Rebit on December 14th. A lot of kids are really excited for that. And then leadership is busy decorating the doors for the classroom doors for Christmas. We did this for Halloween, where we wrapped each of the doors. Last year we did like a gift, like we made each door look like an actual gift. This year we're kind of scrapping that idea and just making general designs on each of the doors. But I think it'll make it look great. And then leadership is also very excited for the middle school leadership class to be coming in for our Rebit rally. It'll be great to see those young faces. And then I'm going to just talk more personally here. We just recently had our AP physics teacher leave rather abruptly. And a lot of kids were feeling very confused and worried about, what's the future of this class going to look like. But I just want to take a moment to thank Miss Wilkinson for stepping in and kind of putting a lot of those doubts to rest. And she's just done a really great job. So, yeah. Yeah, of course. And then that concludes my report.
Board of Trustees?
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Mike.
you go.
I heard rumblings that there's just been some calendaring things this fall, and I'm wondering. I just sort of want to ask an open question at some point about whether that's something that we could coordinate and centralize across all the campuses at some point, and maybe that because I feel like we've had issues, especially last year. There was a lot of discussion about just there being like conflicting school events conflicting with one another. And so if you have multiple students, not being able to attend both things, or athletes not being able to attend important meetings at the high school, or, just different coordination of facilities. And I feel like, once upon a time, we talked a lot about communication in this way, that there was just a need to sort of like raise the game overall so that everyone was getting good information regularly in the way that was the most useful for them. And I guess I'm feeling a sense that calendaring might be the next frontier of that just making sure that there's kind of continuity across the calendar, which I know is probably impossible, but if we could make it more possible, that would be good. And maybe that belonged in requests, which is at the actual end of the meeting. So excuse me for breaking protocol.
I would just say it is something that we continue to work on, and we do have a master calendar we try to get everybody to use. There was some glitches this year as it pertains to using the newly minted Drew Esquivel Hall because construction was delayed. And
right.
So it just became a crunch during the holiday season.
Right. And I just want to be totally clear that I don't have I'm not concerned about, the difficulties of this particular incident and the solutions related to it. It's more that like after, maybe even just post-COVID, as like a parent of both of secondary and primary, and elementary students, that like it's come up a lot that there's sort of like conflicts and, and I just get this sense that if we had somebody who was like looking across the horizon, that it would be make things easier.
Yeah, we do have somebody, and it was pre-COVID that it was happening.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. It's probably like for all time, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll just do a quick update on the ELAC and DLAC. November 7th, the elementary ELAC was held at HES. Basically, topics were reclassification process, RFAP, and there was also the election of officers. And out of that conversation, I won't do all of it, you can read the minutes, so that's another question I have, they were asking, the parents were asking for the ELD process and at a parent meeting as opposed to just the ELAC meeting, but can there be an invitation to all, to notify all. I'm going to just toss that back to the principals to work with their ELAC, just to coordinate that. They're asking for that, and hopefully we can provide that sometime in the near future. I'm thinking, obviously, for me, after the first of the year. Subsequently, on November the 14th, at the junior high was DLAC, not the junior high ELAC, but the DLAC superintendent was there, did a great job on the immigration resolution discussion and explaining to our parents our intent as a board and how our greatest concern, obviously, is our students. And so I appreciate that. There's also, obviously, the election of officers, and the importance of attendance and review of the SARB process. And also, which I thought was interesting, the portion about gang awareness. And out of all that discussion, again, a request or, as the advisory part of the Act, the A, was the parents were saying maybe we could have a meeting again with parents regarding gangs. And I don't know what that looks like, maybe a panel or something. And again, I looked to the president, Erica, and I said, maybe you could get a little committee and work with whomever, with SB or whomever, and kind of build something, and maybe we can help put that together. And then the other, which I thought was great, being at the junior high, was the parents were talking about maybe we could get the district could provide some sort of a parenting meeting on how to parent I'm looking at the junior high, and one parent who happens to have a junior high student I know said, yeah, junior high would be real good. And I, of course, laughed, having been a junior high school principal. Good luck with that. But I think that would be good. Again, the parents are asking, they're saying this would really be really helpful to our community. So those three things from the two different meetings, I think would be helpful for our parents, and hopefully we can help them and engage them. And my hope is not just that they have this learning process, but we can bring more parents in to our schools so they can become more active, if you will, and feel more respected, if that's not even the right word, but more involved in our school and know that the school is able to provide some things for them. Hopefully they show up, and I don't know if food helps, but I'll leave that to the principals and their respective DLACs. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mike. Who's the DLAC president? Do you know?
Erica Gutierrez.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I was very pleased to hear that the vice president, I believe it's the vice president, is a newcomer parent, which is like super important, right, when we're having these conversations. So I was very pleased to hear that. I just wanted to highlight that the Healdsburg soccer team is having a soccer game, their first of the season, today against Cloverdale. They might be done already. I know Julian is part of the team as well. And that the Greyhound cheer competition team took first place out of 7 teams on November 9th. This is the first title for Healdsburg High School.
It's their first competition as an actual school sport.
So very excited. I know that there were some hiccups there with space allocation, but I've heard that those have been resolved. So really excited, just like any other sport, because cheer is a sport. It provides a safe space for our students. So very pleased about that. And I also just wanted to share that I am very thankful to Chris, to our school district, to Mike for bringing up the conversation regarding immigration, which is a very important conversation that it affects a lot of our students, our parents, and their external other family members, relatives, creating stressors in people's lives. Which affects learning and student outcomes, right? So it's really important to note and highlight that. We received a letter from Lucien asking us to sign on. So I please ask our board, if you so will, to sign on supporting Sonoma County as a safe haven for our students and our families, as well as just providing ongoing support. There is a immigration clinic being hosted in Cloverdale this weekend. I will send the flyers out to the schools so you can share that, please. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I will also share that Chris and I had a conversation with some community members about gang prevention and talking about how we can support our families and our students. And I would just might correct you by saying that we do not want to teach parents how to be parents. We want to provide parents with the tools to support their students. Parents are knowledgeable and know what's best for their students. It's just about providing tools. And just to think about, and I think this is a conversation not only for our schools, but for our city to discuss how we are addressing students who we might consider gang-related, and they might not affiliate as people in gangs. So I think that is a conversation that we should have as a district and as a community. But I think that Chris is working on, so I really thank you for starting a conversation about how to provide tools. Parents are asking for tools. I want potentially maybe students are asking for supports in our district. So that conversation has been initiated. So thank you, Chris, and others who have been involved in that. And that's what I have.
Okay. All right, so we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Yeah, before we take the break, I do want to point out by board bylaw, we can't meet. We have to pass a resolution to meet past 9, and then we'd have to do it again at 9:15, and then 9:30 we're supposed to be done. So we need to move to get through we have a lot of important business on the back end of this agenda. So yeah.
Thank you all. We're so sorry we kept you so late.
We're on 10.2A. Yeah.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Aye.
Motion carries. 10.2B, public hearing. This is a public hearing. The Board of Trustees has set this time aside to hear public comments on the collective bargaining tentative agreement for CSCA for 2024-2025. It's required by Assembly Bill 1200 and 2756, submitted by Debbie Odetto.
Yep. So this is the I'm sorry, AB 1200s. I can talk to you. Are you going to go over it, Debbie? Okay, good. No, go ahead.
This is a
go
public
ahead.
hearing. This is a public hearing.
Oh, we're
Yes,
in the public hearing phase.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes.
Yep.
Okay, so
No public comments.
hearing.
Yeah. Okay, so this is so whenever we come to an agreement with any collective bargaining unit, we're required by law to have an AB 1200, which is basically us showing that we can afford said raise into the 3-year window in the future. So that's what is the next item. David, did you want to speak to the AB 1200s?
With the raises in place.
Any questions from the board?
I have a question, but I can't find it. Let me find out what page I'm on.
And I could mention that these go to the Sonoma County Office of Ed before they come to the board, and they have been reviewed.
Well, it did come up earlier, but so in this, it says includes a reduction in 3.0 FTE.
Mm-hmm.
And why are we reducing staff?
Because I have to show a reduction to make us solvent in the third year out at this point in time, because I don't know what the revenues will look like. We're forecasting ahead.
Yeah, so we have to conservatively estimate revenues, and to be able to account for those conservatively estimated revenues that have never actually come in that conservative estimate in terms of the number, we have to show that there would be potential reductions out into the future. That's exactly what Mike spoke about in his HADA report. So it is,
right.
We're talking about imaginary numbers 3 years out from now.
Okay, and I look at that knowing that the board has indicated that we want to maintain our staff, basically because we're basic aid, not basically because we want to lower the teacher student ratio. That's what I figured why we were doing it, but
Yeah, because when you look at the second and third year out, you have to remember it's budget, not actuals.
I understand.
Yeah,
And
I do get it, but I see it says reduction. I'm advocating, at least for one board member, and we've all said it, is that yes, our enrollment may drop, and therefore sometimes we
Yeah,
drop
but that's
teachers.
we're clear on what
Okay.
your wishes are. I mean, to be totally transparent, this has been involved in every single AB 1200 we've
And I
done
know
since
that.
I've been superintendent
I
for
know.
10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not. This is just an accounting issue.
So,
more
you
than it
understand,
is
so
an
Mike, you
actual-
understand?
Yeah.
Okay.
And another thing to mention in the revenues is all of the grants and all the monies coming in that we've been talking about throughout the evening. None of those are in these revenues because I can't put those in there until we receive them.
Sorry, I have a question. Does the HADA official are they in coordination with this budget planning phase?
No, not for this. Not for.
They aren't?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're in coordination with the negotiation of it.
Right. When and if we had to do reductions, it would be clearly spoken about with them, and there's all kinds of laws around when you can do it and how. So
Okay.
yeah.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, so next we have classified salary schedule for 24-25.
The item you have before you is the 24-25 classified salary schedule with a 9.5 salary increase implemented. Any questions?
No, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, public hearing. The Board of Trustees has set time aside to hear public comments on the collective bargaining tentative agreement with HADA for 24-25. No comments?
No comments?
Okay, hearing closed. Public disclosure of collective bargaining tentative agreement, Assembly Bill 1200. This is an action item.
Same as classified, except for...
This is the exact same, except the cover sheet shows the HADA numbers, but all of the papers supporting it are the same.
Any questions, comments? Since we've already got clarification on that.
Move for approval.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Certificated salary schedules for 24-25.
Attached here are the certificated salary schedules. There have been 2 revisions made. The first revision is on the 188-day salary schedule. There's no monetary change. We did have the elementary department chairs down on the bottom there. In negotiations, it was removed off the salary schedule and placed onto the extra duty salary schedule. So this revision reflects that. And then the extra duty salary schedule is the second revision, which reflects the new department chair on it. Along with that, the high school chairs on the extra duty stipend schedule had an error on the base stipend. That was at a 500 base that carried over, and it should have had the 9.5 increase in it. So it is now showing on the new salary schedule.
Any questions, comments? Do you have a motion to approve?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Sorry,
go
you
ahead.
second.
No, you
Go
second.
ahead. No, you second.
Who seconded?
Any.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Public hearing. Board of Trustees has set time aside to hear public comments on the proposed management and represented salary schedule for 24-25. It's required by Assembly Bill 1200 and 2756.
No
Before you have the AB 1200s, top sheet represents what the management unit is costing with the increase.
Any questions, comments? Do you have a move to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do you have a second?
I'll second. Oh.
Who seconds?
Crystal.
Lupe.
Crystal? You second?
Crystal, yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Classified confidential salary schedule for 24-25.
Attached is the classified confidential salary schedule with a 9.5 salary increase.
Questions, comments?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, where am I? Am I on
Classified management.
classified management? Thank you. Classified management salary schedules for 24-25.
Attached before you have the classified management salary schedule with a 9.5 salary increase.
Any questions, comments?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Next, yeah.
Annual organization.
Nope, certificated management.
Next, we have the certificated management salary
Sorry,
schedule.
thank you.
With the 9.5 salary increase implemented.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments?
Motion to approve.
A second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Annual organizational meeting.
Oh, we're at 9. Thank you. We need to have a motion and a second and a vote to extend the meeting by 15 minutes.
I move that we extend the meeting by 15 minutes.
I'll second. Oh.
Julian seconded.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, annual organizational meeting.
So every December, we designate the first board meeting, which will be December 18th, to do our organizational meeting, which, as you recall, will involve electing a new president, vice president, committee assignments, seating new trustees, and right at the beginning, saying goodbye to the trustees who are stepping down. So, yeah.
I have a silly question for that meeting. So all of the items that we discussed today will be actioned by the new board, correct?
Correct.
Correct. Thank you.
Typically on consent. Yeah. And I will make sure they're up to date on what they need to know about the items. So, yeah.
That's an action item. Have a motion to
So
approve?
moved.
Do you have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. N, Healdsburg Unified School District Board Meeting Calendar.
So you see the calendar that we provided. It does incorporate some special board meetings for the trustee area discussion that we will be engaging in. We're going to send a letter home notifying all families about that tomorrow. But this, it's our standard fare as it would be. And then in March, it's a little different because of spring break and we need to get statutorily before March 15th so that the budget second interim can be adopted. So.
Thanks, Chris. I move that we approve the calendar.
We don't have to approve that one.
Oh, we don't.
That's just a discussion. Yep.
It's okay. Any questions? Okay, any questions, comments about that? Okay.
No.
All right, so moving on to Comprehensive School Safety Plan.
In the packet, you have the first reading for the safety plan. It has the basic items of the drill schedules, the maps, evacuation. Rob Smith we were consulting with him to work on our safety plan. We're kind of doing an overhaul on the entire plan and pulling out old things and getting in new things. One of the big things we're putting into the plan this year is we're using the Sonoma County Essential 5 that's gone county-wide. That the Essential 5 is shelter in place, drop, cover, hold, secure the campus, lockdown, evacuation, and we're going in detail on what each one of those individual essentials means and trying to make it very clear with staff. There's a lot of confusion on, what is the difference between secure the campus and a lockdown, and we're going through all the details. We're working closely with Healdsburg Police Department and Fire Department. They've been in on our first PD day. We'll probably meet with them again. And we'll continue to work on this for the next couple of months, get it approved by the police department and fire department, and then bring it back for action on the February board meeting. Any questions? Sorry.
All right, Resolution 25-14 regarding trustee compensation for meeting absence.
Yeah, so anytime a trustee is absent from a board meeting now that we have the stipended protocol, we need to have a resolution to excuse the absence by the other trustees. Now, that is an important note that the trustee who was absent should abstain from the vote.
Yes.
Yeah, so just because it's a conflict of interest. So, so this, I don't even remember the month, but our
September.
was not well when I think you were sick or something. I can't
September.
remember exactly.
No, it was
It was a job, yeah, it was a job-related absence. And I think it was 2 months ago, if I remember correctly. It would have been
September.
September.
Yeah,
So, so we would need a motion and a second to approve Araceli's absence. It's a silly
moved.
protocol.
I'll second.
all in favor.
Sorry, it's Rezo.
Oh, it's a Rezo. Oh.
Yeah, of all things.
Chris, I have a question just really
Yeah.
quickly. So, for example, if a board member that is leaving the board next month and was absent in a previous meeting, how does that work? Same thing? It's voted by the new board and compensation would be paid.
If you're not, I don't understand.
I wasn't here for the October meeting.
For an October meeting?
Well, I was here for the closed session, but I wasn't here for the.
That you attended.
Oh.
So yeah, because you attended, we
Thank you.
don't necessarily have to excuse that.
Just want to
Yeah.
make that
So,
public.
yeah, no, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is transparent and integrous. Yeah. So.
Okay,
Thank you.
so
I moved.
I think that's
right, and then I need to do a roll call.
Sorry.
Vice President Lopez Jimenez,
Oh, here. Oh, aye. Yes.
Trustee Potmasil, Trustee McAllister, Trustee Lopez Pardo,
Aye.
Student Trustee Johansson Hufrey.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, that's just a weird law. So.
Holding people accountable.
Construction management services. This is an action item.
Before you have a agreement for Counterpoint Construction. I came to the board in October and got approval to go out for an RFQ to get construction management for Measure R if the bond was to pass. The bond is passed. We now have an agreement with Counterpoint Construction. After reviewing RFQs from 3 different firms, they were chosen as the best choice for the district. I'm asking for approval of the agreement.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just a side note, it's up to 64.6% passage, which is awesome. So yeah, it keeps going up.
All right, change order for number 001 for the Fitch Mountain Campus roofing project.
Okay, We did the Fitch Mountain campus HVAC roofing site improvements as one project. In the paperwork, it was broken out into two. So the first change order you have before you is a reduction of over $373,000. And this is for the actual roofing and HVAC portion of it. The next change order is an addition. For $108,000. It's an overall reduction of $264,000 to the overall project, but it reads weird on paper because one is an addition and one is a subtraction. But we saved over $264,000 on the project.
I move for adoption of change order number 001.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then there's a change order.
So this is the other one I was speaking
I'll
about.
move for change order 001B. Yeah, for the campus site work improvements.
The second one says school improvement instead of HVAC and roofing.
Oh,
And that
second.
one was
Oh,
more
there you go.
about the shade structure in the parking lot.
Okay.
Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll motion.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, notice of completion for the Fitch Mountain campus HVAC roofing and site work improvement projects.
So after approving those change orders, we are now ready to approve the notice of completion for the entire project.
Yeah.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second?
Oh,
everyone second.
There's all three.
Everyone seconds.
Okay, we'll have trustee Jillian. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Selection of leaseback contractor for Healdsburg High School front entry project and approval of leaseback agreement for the performance of preliminary services.
So in October, we came forward with going out with an RFP for leaseback for the front entry project of the high school, which is the parking lot in the Student Grove. And after review, Lathrop Construction has been selected for the contractor, and they've done a lot of work at the high school already. And this is an agreement with them to begin with the preliminary services. It's in the amount of $5,800.
Do you have a
It'll happen this summer.
This summer?
Yeah.
And it'll all will be completed by the beginning of
Yeah, it should be completed by the school year. Landscaping, signage, and parking lot improvement. The Grove will be addressed as part of. We'll bring you with a plan to approve. Yeah, yeah.
So do we have a motion to approve?
I'll motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And just for the record, Lathrop they built the art and culinary wings at the high school, so they do incredible work.
And they're
as well as the
beautiful.
science building. Yeah. So.
Okay, so moving on to 10.3, personnel. This is the public hearing, Healdsburg Area Teachers Association contract reopeners for 25-26 school year.
So before you, you have the superintendent.
That was the public hearing.
Sorry.
Oh, public hearing?
Okay, all right, go on, Debbie.
I can do it.
Oh.
So we got the letter from HADA with their reopeners, and it's just basically your vote acknowledges receipt, and that we're moving forward with negotiations. So.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve, accept?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Public hearing for Healdsburg Unified School District contract reopeners for 25-26. Public hearing closed.
Same thing, you received a letter from us it is actually one of those, I should have said this last time, it's the whole contract, so it's going to be a longer negotiation. We'll put a lot of time in on both sides and together, and so we will be covering more of that specifically with you in the future, but this is the reopeners that we have.
So moved.
No second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, ratification of superintendent's employment agreement, and we do have copies here.
Yeah, Mike needs a copy since he's here. Yeah. Is that for her or me?
That's for anybody.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the ratification of superintendent employment agreement. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any nays? Nay. Were there any other, did everybody approve? I'm not sure if I.
No.
Yeah. So we have
3 yes and.
I would vote no, just based on some language that I'm not clear on.
Okay. All right, motion carries. And Board of Trustees reports, comments, requests for information?
I just have a request, as I mentioned, I think, earlier. I will be out of town in the December meeting.
Okay.
And so however you do it, put on a Zoom so I can zoom in.
We'll talk about how to make that work. Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, don't you have to advertise it that I'm going to?
Yeah, we have to publicize it and you have to be in a public
And they're all
place.
invited.
Yeah, we talked about it.
You know,
Yeah.
And then also possibly the January meeting due to a health issue.
Yeah.
As in a knee.
That one might be harder for you to be in a public place potentially, but we
That
can
might
talk
be,
about it.
but I
Yeah.
can come in a wheelchair.
Yeah, absolutely.
For a minute.
Okay. Anything else? Do we need a recess to close session? No, I don't think so.
I actually just wanted to say, and I know Mike's still back there, that I am really gratified that the district has the money to continue to give raises to the teachers and staff. These are substantial raises, and life is very expensive these days. And, I just want to say that I have deep personal gratitude for the teachers and staff of the district and the administrators in the district. And I'm just happy that I'm sitting on this board to be able to see that reward is financial as well as personal. And thank you.
Thank you, everyone. The meeting is adjourned. 9:13.
9:13, 11.